And I just feel like, oh, meeting being recorded. Okay, here comes Sam. But anyway, I just feel like the climate change science needs to be revamped. So something that we can all agree on, not just biting off little bits and pieces.
It has to be made accessible to the lay public, and that may not be practical. It may be that there's too many technical elements to it that the average person can understand it comprehensively.
Oh, yeah, it's too much. Way more than we ever imagined. Hello, Sam.
Sam is out in
Hey
the woods
guys,
today.
I think I have a semi halo. It's because I have a bright window in the back that's coming through the background.
Yeah, you need a
Cool
green
effect.
screen. You need a green screen behind you.
Now, I kind of like this effect.
I like it. Very etheric.
My eyes look blue or purple.
Well, yeah, there's a blue glare coming off. I think it's coming off your glasses. Yeah, it is coming off your glasses. Yeah, I can
Well,
tell.
he's got light shining in, and then he's backdropped with the light shining in. It's cool.
But this background, this wallpaper, by the way, is this local neighborhood. This is where I take walks pretty much every morning.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Those are nice trees.
Yeah, it's nice
Yeah,
looking.
my parents just got back to their house. It's still there. It didn't burn down, and the fire literally came to our road and stopped. So, like our
Lucked
driveway,
out. They lucked out. Yeah.
super lucky, super. Yeah, they got it just right there, and I just can't believe they still have a home. I'm just so happy. It's super sad that all the trees up above them are all burned now, and it's burning north and south. But
Do they have utilities in operation?
yeah,
Water.
yeah, it's off the grid, so their utilities are working.
I see. So they don't require any regional utilities, electricity,
Uh,
telephone.
it's in the it's literally in the woods. Very there's a well, and last time the well burnt down, and we had to pull up the pump from the well and redo the wiring to get the water back pumping. But this time it didn't burn the well house.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
yeah. So and he put his tractor in a little area that hopefully wouldn't burn.
So they use satellite access for communication.
Yep.
That's like you, a little bit like you do.
Yep. Starlink. Well, I'm on the grid. I have actual cable. I just don't use it
Yeah.
because it was too spotty. But I should use it actually. We're paying for it. So I should try to Qcella uses the cable, I use the Starlink.
Yeah. Well, you have that issue where it switches from one link to the next, and you get these brief outages.
Yeah, I haven't had that so much lately.
Man.
Been pretty solid.
Okay.
Have you seen? I haven't really been going out. It's mostly the phone itself. The iPhone is disconnecting, not the Starlink.
Overheating.
No, just if I put my hand behind the phone, there's a Wi-Fi connection. So sometimes when I move the phone, it will go out for a second.
Oh, okay.
So it's just the Wi-Fi here. But yeah, I'm just amazed. There's a home still. I'm just so happy they got in on Thursday night, and their garden is growing, and everything's burnt down around.
Well,
So
at least they have a dwelling that's intact.
yep, yeah, they've had what was it, 1,200, and then it went up to 2,400 firefighters fighting that fire.
Wow. A
And
lot.
they set up camp down in our little valley. So when they were going by, it looked like a makeshift city was built in our valley. It was incredible, like all the firefighters down there. Yeah, I'm just so happy that it's still there. So yeah, I'm rethinking living in the woods because it's gonna happen 50 years from now when all the trees grow back. It's just gonna come through and burn up.
Well, I
So,
suppose if you sort of keep the brush from building up too much, the ground brush, you
but
can
you can't do it in the whole entire forest.
no, but you can do it in, let's say, an acre or so around your dwelling.
We did that. We did that in 4 acres around our dwelling, and it still
Or
burnt down. So it doesn't. It's just yeah. I mean, look at. So what I'm saying is, look at Sam's trees. Imagine those trees are all burning. That means the fire is going 30 to 50 to 100 feet up in the air. And when
yeah.
a flame is going that high and that hot, it's not stopping anything. So anyway,
Good news here is we have sufficient humidity that right now we're not in any danger of that.
nice. Yeah.
In fact, the last big fire here on the island was 1930s-ish. It was like
Well,
90 years ago.
you know,
Actually, no, there wasn't a fire. Sorry. I take that back. There was no fire. The reason it was cleared was this was an island that was used for logging. So it's a huge island, like 40 square miles. And other than 1 or 2 square miles called the preserve, the entire island in the 30s was completely bare due to logging. And all of this has regrown just in the last 80, 90 years.
Hmm. Yeah. It's so interesting. The history just only 100 years ago, things were so different.
Yeah.
I was watching a video about Los Angeles, and they had these buildings that made no sense. And the guy said, "What are these buildings?" And he realized they're oil derricks in the middle of Los Angeles, covered by what looks to be an office building,
but they're facades.
a facade. Yeah, there we go. AI transcript. So I didn't know that in the 1930s they started really pumping oil in Los Angeles. People found oil. It was one of the main sources of oil at that time. I didn't know that. And then I found out that the Hollywood venture of making movies was very closely tied with tax purposes to the oil industry back then.
What was the
So it
connection?
was people making money off the movies were investing in oil and getting tax breaks because it
Oh,
was subsidized from the government,
all right.
kind of like the way it is now with the oil industry being subsidized.
Drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, it helped grow Hollywood having a tie in with the oil subsidies. What's on the agenda today?
I have an apology to make,
Oh,
if you want to hear it. I remember saying some disparaging things about the Chinese influence on the drug testing practices at the Olympics this year.
I recall those, yes.
Now, I haven't confirmed nor denied, the alternate position, but I did read a fairly lengthy post. It was a Chinese rebuttal that, in actual fact, the drug testing, let's say, violations, in other words, excuses or reasons for not applying the standards for drug testing were much more predominant in other countries, including the US, than in China, according to this Chinese source. So much has been made in the Western media, which got to me, about how China was influencing these practices, but they hadn't been talking about how much the US and other Western countries had been, in a sense, doing the same practice, abusing the same set of standards. So if I'm, let's say, wrongfully accusing the Chinese of doing this without looking at the same behavior in other countries, that's my admission of incomplete thought. So I wanted to go on record with that.
Was Russia banned for drugs or for Ukraine?
I don't know about 2024, but I guess it's been talked about, rumored, maybe even verified, that they've done this for quite many decades. In fact, the US, obviously through Lance Armstrong, has been abusing this for decades and other athletes. So yeah, we're not clean ourselves to be making these accusations.
Yeah.
And the numbers that China cited were the US was in hundreds, whereas they were in the, smaller number of digits. Okay, that was my on the record admission of incomplete thought. It's not
Yeah,
being systemic and critical enough. That's my admission. Should have done this for tomorrow.
it's really hard to get good information these days.
But when I
Uh,
have new information, I do change, my thinking on this. So I just wanted to go on the record with that. So I haven't
yeah,
dealt into either side in depth sufficiently.
yeah. I was listening to a political scientist last night talk about global politics, and then they were citing their same talks a year ago and then 3 years ago, and like see who made the more accurate predictions. And pretty much they're always wrong, and they always try to backpedal and say, "Well, no, no, I said it was going to happen. I just didn't say when." So it could still happen. And so I just find it really interesting when you know, I'm trying to find out what's going on in China, and I like to watch people in China, but at the same time, I wonder what is allowed to be posted to YouTube or to the internet from the Chinese government, who's looking over these videos before they're posted, and who's deciding if the information is correct. So I'm very skeptical on both sides of the propaganda. People that are saying China's horrible, and then this other videos where they're saying, "Oh wow, it's amazing." People from Hong Kong didn't like people in China, but now they're loving China. And it's hard to get the real information. I'm having a lot of trouble and not knowing who's accurate. But
Reliable
It's,
source.
yeah,
what was that, Barry?
It's a question of reliable sources. It's really hard to sift out reliable sources from misleading and disinformation sources.
really hard.
They keep changing. For one thing, these disinformation sources keep changing their name. So they're, maybe the same people, but it's under a new moniker. So you can't really tell um, right away that it's going to be an unreliable source.
Well, let me also clarify my position. I have plenty of beef with the Chinese government. I don't have any beef with the Chinese people. I've been there a few
Yeah.
times. They're largely, fine. They're very practical, very easy to get along with. You piss them off, they get pissed off. You're nice to them, they're nice to you. So just regular people. But the government, the system there,
Yeah.
man,
Governments in
I got
general
plenty to
tend to
say.
be the evildoers.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much I feel the same way about the US government, although not to such an
Yeah,
extreme
well,
degree.
we have our dark history
Well,
practices going back to
under
the
the idiot
founding of the
number
country.
45, yes, that was equally bad.
Yeah. But even going back to Manifest Destiny and the Native American treatment, Japanese American treatment in World War II, we have plenty of episodes and treatment of the blacks. It's, we don't have a very spotless record exactly.
No, it's looking worse and worse the more and more we dig up from history.
Yep.
But it's really generating this backlash of denial. But we'll get through
And,
that, I think.
and then body cameras are revealing, how awful the
Yeah, it's amazing how often they don't work.
or when they do work, they reveal what really happened.
They're not quite reliable enough.
So yeah, getting comprehensive, accurate information is remarkably difficult for the average layperson.
I think the question is what percentage are we okay with? Like, are we okay with 20% of the people doing horrible things, or is it 30? Where do we draw the lines? That's what I'm trying to find out. That whole the buck stops here kind of idea.
There's
Do
an
we draw
estimate.
it?
There's an estimate from the psychologists, something of the order of 15% of the population have very serious psychological disorders, personality disorders, sociopathy, and that kind of stuff. That's a pretty good size subset of the population.
Yeah, and I suspect that's even a low estimate.
It may very well be because that's what they can at least document.
The more you talk to people, the more you find out about the trauma and
Hmm.
abuse almost everyone has gone through,
Yep.
especially women, females.
Yep.
It's amazing. It's way up over 60, 70%.
And the difficulty of recovering from that. Most people don't fully recover or even partially recover from traumas, youthful traumas, or even middle year traumas.
Yeah, I think mental health is very subjective, and the amount of that's what I mean by do we draw the line at like, well, I'm 60% mentally healthy. I'm relatively not depressed. Is 60% good? Because I don't think so. I think 80, 90, 100% would be what we should shoot for.
I
And then
don't
if we
even know what
get
that
to like
percentage
85,
means. What does that percentage mean?
how about I'll start with, are you happy with your job, Sam? Like, let's just start there. That's usually the first
No.
one. It's like, yeah. So if you had that, that would give you probably at least 60% if you were happy with your job.
If
Well,
you're
didn't
talking
you?
about like percentage of the day where you feel generally pretty good, I might understand that.
But didn't you
I'm
say you're
saying,
you're
yeah.
you're, you're searching for a career change like within 6 months to a year?
Yeah, I am. I'm considering pivoting.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'd
Well,
consider a career change too, except I'm retired. Like,
That's a career
well, time to
change.
get back to work, Barry. You
what
got to
does
get
one
back to
do when
work.
they're 80 years old and in sort of diminished capacity
You
and
make a
all?
plan for the next 40 years, Barry.
I don't
Yeah.
think I'll last that long. I'll be lucky to last another
Hey, you
10 years.
don't know that because, medical advances are, just, I mean, you hear about something almost every other week.
Yeah, well, if they find the fountain of youth, you can let me know.
Actually, 10 plus years ago, I heard somebody say they were planning a head transplant. Did that ever happen?
No, that's ridiculous.
It was actually written up as a serious endeavor. Somebody wanted to cryogenic freeze, expecting to be head transplanted.
Although making a simulacrum of yourself, a synthetic simulacrum that can keep on going. I was watching a TED talk this morning. Helen, what was her last name? Handel or something like that. She was working with voice synthesizers that she had trained her voice on them. And she's a singer. And she only sings in English and with a sort of limited scope of range that she could sing. But she trained this system on her voice. It can now sing like her in all languages and all ranges beyond her capacity. And she was demonstrating that. And also, she had a guy come on, and he had two microphones. One was singing his real voice. The other one he was singing, and it was generating her synthetic voice to be a duet. And it was really remarkable. I think it was Helen Handel, I think was her name. And she had a little 9-minute TED talk demonstrating this synthetic voice. And I was thinking, gee, if I could have a synthetic voice sing my song parodies for me, it doesn't have to be my voice because I'm like you have to train these on your own voice. It doesn't have to be your own voice.
Or it can
Uh,
be
and,
made
and
into anyone else's voice.
there are supposedly systems, either premium or maybe even a free version. But I
Yeah,
think
it's
it take a lot of effort to learn to employ them.
not really. It's pretty easy. You just go to 11 labs and then you pick the voice you want. They have pre-done ones, and then you just put in the text.
Yep.
And the newest model of ChatGPT, it was just released not to the public, but to certain people.
Yeah.
and you can tell it to sing a little more breathier or do it more like this jazz singer or do this character, and it
Or
will
do it
do it
like
now.
Frank.
It's the new
Yeah,
generation which are not even out to the public yet, and then they'll be premium for like the first year or two.
I mean,
But
look,
yeah.
literally almost every other day, I see another video. Oh, this is now the super great video generator. And then 2 days later, oh, now this is now the super great video generator. It'll do this that that didn't do, and that does this that that didn't do. And it's like
It's
every other day.
but I can see
yes.
things like Linda Ronstadt, which lost her singing voice, and who's the other Sound of Music performer who lost her voice? The star of Sound of Music. They both of these famous singers lost their voice. So they could basically have synthetic voices
Well,
recreate.
Mary Poppins?
Yeah, who played Mary Poppins? Forget her name now.
Yeah.
But anyhow, there
Julie
were
Andrews.
two
Yes, yes,
famous
yes,
female
yes.
singers who lost their voice in their declining years. Lost
Well,
their singing.
yeah, I was going to say it's built into the operating system. I think it was either a year ago or 2 years ago on the Apple operating system. In accessibilities, you can recreate your voice built right into the operating system. No extra software needed.
Yeah. So I suppose in 5 years that will maybe become, I won't say utility, but it'll become
I'm
practical.
telling you, Barry, it's not in 5 years. It was 2 years ago.
Well, yeah, but it's not. I mean, to some extent, there are free versions that are available for the general public, but I haven't looked in to see how easy they are to use,
I guess.
or how powerful a desktop you need to run them.
Well, that's what I'm trying to share is like the M1 computer is running a lot of these software now, which is the Apple, and they're up to M4 on the iPad.
Yeah.
So that's the M1. So I'm saying I know you're a little bit behind in those
My
hardware
my
things,
best machine is like a 2012 iMac. That's this one.
but I'm saying for $300 you can get an iMac M1 that will do all these things. So it was 800, now it's 300. That's pretty cheap.
Yeah. I think, but the other side is they do say that these things take some effort to learn to use them beyond the very primitive level. I mean, you can use them at a primitive level, but they're not that good. And then if you want to fine tune them, it's like editing a document. You know, you can do crude editing, but if you really want a polished document, you got to edit the hell out of it.
You can figure it out, Barry.
Theoretically, but my my
Um,
motivation and focus is diminishing as I age. So there's
Depends
less
on
and
how
less.
much you want Frankie to be singing your parodies.
Frankie, who's Frankie?
Oh, come on.
Sinatra
Well, Frank Sinatra. Oh.
Or Marilyn.
or whoever, you could do anything you want now. It's literally like, I
Well,
mean,
there is
you
also
want me
this
to,
issue of
maybe I got it today. Let me see if I
there's the
got it.
IP issue. This Helen Handel has released a free version, but she only lets you sing scat songs. You can't sing actual word lyrics because she doesn't want people to create inappropriate lyrics in her voice. So you can only do scat singing with her voice.
I
Yeah.
just want, for the record, when we speak about people who lost their voice, I want to mention Eva Cassidy.
Oh yeah, well she died young, didn't she?
She died super young, but she had a beautiful voice.
She had a beautiful voice,
Yes.
and so you could recreate these fabulous voices of people who've aged out of their singing voice or singing in keys that they couldn't normally sing, except in their prime, if at all.
Mhm.
I just started playing with my music studio quite seriously, and the things that it will do is unbelievable. There's every kind of instrument, every kind of plugin, every kind of effects processor,
Yeah.
the pitch shifting. I found a piano plugin that will turn your piano into different keys and then do inversions of those. So as a novice piano player, I started hitting the keys and I sound amazing. I'm hitting one note and it's doing a full, a chord, and then that chord, it's inverting that chord, and I'm playing, and I'm like, why do I sound so good? Oh, wait, the plugin's on. I didn't know I turned the plugin on, and it was just like,
Well,
you
and
know, I
auto tune. I mean, auto tune has been around for a long time, and
but
but
but but it goes
That's not
beyond
auto
auto
tune.
tune.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're. Well, I'm going to say that's been around for a long time. And now there's this stuff that can synthesize from sheet music or other sources. Um,
but it's like having superpowers because like having a music expert controlling my hands saying, okay, you hit this note. Now, even if you mess up and hit the wrong note, I'm going to push you up to the right. So it's like playing the circle of fifths perfectly. And then it says which not only what key do I want to be in, but what scale? Like, am I going to be pentatonic or is it, you know, it's just you got to play with it. All I can say is like when people talk about music, if you use it, you can feel it. Like it's just so nice to have these beautiful, and it's really makes a difference. I have KRK really good monitor speakers, so the true sound is coming out of the speakers. That's the difference. That's the trick to good music is having good speakers.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's on the frontier. It's emerging on the frontier. We'll see how far. But the IP issue, copying the timbre of some known speaker without their consent, that's an issue. And so there's this whole copyright IP issue that has to be dealt with.
Not really.
Well, unless you want to cheat and you know put out fakes that are deep fakes that are unauthorized.
Many of these
Well,
models claim uncensored now.
Yeah, that's the other thing is putting words into somebody's mouth that they never said.
yeah.
That's the
I mean,
downside is the abuse of it. It is open to abuse.
have you ever heard the band the Black Keys?
No, but I know about black keys. The black you can't be out of tune on black keys if you only play the black keys.
Yeah,
It's the
on the
pentatonic
piano.
scale, right?
There's a band called the Black Keys, and what they did was they modeled the sound of these old the speakers that have this distortion sound that was from the 1970s, and they modeled it so perfectly that it sounds just exactly like the music that was played at the time, but it's new music being played with the exact sound of these amplifiers
Yeah.
that it's like I was just listening to that song from Dire Straits, Money for Nothing and Your Chicks for Free. I want my MTV.
I don't think I know that song.
They were talking about when they recorded that song in the studio, the mics were messed up and they were trying to get this sound from an earlier band that they could never reproduce. And the mics were broken. They were pointing the wrong way and it was all distorted. And they went, wait a second, that's the sound we've been looking for. Wait, record it like that. And then they recorded it and it became a super famous song.
Yeah. Yeah. An odd sound that
But I'm saying all those mistakes can now be replicated, not just in sound, but in think of photography and the filters and
right.
just any. We're living in a time where the computer can model almost anything exactly the way it was. And I just heard another podcast this week about digital chemistry and rebuilding all of the chemical properties digitally so that they can do pharmaceutical drug making in a digital environment as close as possible and then try to recreate that in the laboratory, which will speed up pharmaceuticals by, I think, 1,000, if not exponential.
I remember the name of
So,
it. It was Holly Hendon was the performer who was demonstrating this on a TED talk, about a 10-minute TED talk.
yeah.
She had a system called Holly Plus, which can synthesize her voice, sounds just like her, but it can perform in other languages and a range beyond her natural range.
And this is the worst it's going to get because the thing that blows my mind is they keep talking about training large language models on a pile of data. And I keep hearing this said by a lot of people in this industry, they're running out of data. They're running out of books from libraries. They're running out of things to
They
scrape
can
from
use
the
my
internet.
stuff. I got a ton of stuff out there they can
Oh,
use.
they're using it. It's there. They're using it. I'm just saying they're literally like this. That's when you say IP thing, that IP thing is a mute point now because no one's picking through it and finding who used what. It'd be a million lawsuits would go
Google
up.
search doesn't even index my stuff anymore. They stopped indexing blogs a long time ago.
They've been scraped. They're in the pile. Don't worry.
Well, but they're so far down the stack that these AI chatbots are not using any of that stuff. I
But they're
checked.
still being trained, Barry.
They're
And
being trained, but not being trained on my stuff because I've asked it about it, and it was making stuff up that didn't come from my material.
well, go to
They
another
they
one
can find
or
other people talking about my work, and the reason I found that out is that they had renamed an item that I had given one name. They gave it a different name, and I found out that that's where they were getting it from. The chatbots were
okay.
reading other people's peer-reviewed stuff where they had renamed something in one of my papers.
Yeah. It's all there. I guess what I'm trying to say is they ran out of data according to these people, and they're looking for data.
Yeah.
And they're
Well,
they're clean, like Sam says, they're clean. They're taking the data that they trained it on, which is junk, and they're cleaning up that junk and training other ones to train the ones to take out the noise. So that, in other words, it's getting clearer and clearer. The signals and the noise is slowly dissipating,
yeah.
just like in the video models, like Sora.
Yeah. But I think, AI and Gen AI, or whatever you call the next version of it, is coming with better mathematical foundations, better ability to do arithmetic and mathematics. That's coming.
I would love to get you five A100s and connect them together, and then you can train your own data. Uh,
So anyhow,
as far as
this
I'm concerned, it's just a matter of time before we turn on our what is that saying? It's working
heaven
back and forth.
something is a heaven is a little closer to a home by the water.
Heaven is a little closer
Nice,
in a home by the water.
Oh, okay.
nice. I guess I'm just trying to share with you, Barry. You haven't seen it all yet. What you read
Oh, I
about and hear
haven't.
about.
I've only seen samples of it that are far enough, over the horizon that they make it to TED Talks and public
Yeah,
radio stories.
yeah. All that information might as well have been 30 years ago.
Yeah. Well, this Holly Hendon, she started her work, I think around 2001 began this synthetic voice stuff early on. But the latest versions of it can do things that the earlier versions, could only be dreamt of. Being able to sing in foreign languages and
Hmm.
in keys that she can't do herself.
I'm planning on working in the studio next year and working with the AI, telling it exactly how I want to sing it, and then giving that to a human being that's a singer and say, here's the inflection, here's what we're going for. Now put your emotional intensity. Here's the way the arrangement is. I can do the arrangement, but I can't give it your voice. You have to sing it with your voice and feel it the way you feel it. But here's the general idea of the melody.
Yeah, I asked both Gemini and Pi about these systems, and they gave me different answers, but they both mentioned the names of both proprietary and free systems to look into. But that was just this morning. I just got the names of them. Haven't looked into
Yeah,
them.
it's unbelievable. It's yeah. I just got an update on my Tesla car too this week, so it's already a new version driving. Hucella's using the car right now, so it's driving her around on the newest version.
Yeah, you mentioned that last Sunday, or maybe it was Saturday.
Yeah. Well, just from last week, I'm saying it updated
Well,
again.
an update since last weekend. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're supposed to update to the car that Sam Chan has this next week. That's their timeline is next week it'll go on to the version 3 hardware. So it's that's pretty fast moving. And they just put in, I think it's 100,000 A100s or whatever the step down from the Blackwell NVIDIA processors. They put them into the this
Is
Giga
that the,
Texas
is that the GPU nomenclature, A100?
Yeah.
GPU. Yeah. So they spent billions of dollars now with that are already outdated because the new ones are coming out, but they need something to train it on. So they've already invested that much money in the old processing. So once they get the new ones coming out, as long as they have enough cash to buy those, it will just exponentially keep continuing to get better.
So they train on the latest version, but then they download the application to the older hardware.
They train on it and then they refine it to try to make it less
That's intensive.
compute, yeah, less compute power
So it'll run on
for
the
the
older hardware.
they hope. You would hope. We'll see, what that's where it gets a little tricky. Like it should in theory. We'll find out if it does.
Well, like for example, most of us still don't have 64 gig or much less 128 gig RAM machines.
I don't.
And a lot of those models that are the 48 billion parameter models don't run well at
Hmm.
64 gigs of RAM. I
This was
found
only
that
a
out,
16 gig machine.
difficultly. I tried, I squeezed. Okay. So that's why they
Yeah.
want to have it run in smaller models that can run on more common machines. But then you got to, tweak and tune the performance so that it's not abysmally bad. And that's where a lot of the optimization is going these days.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, RAM is getting cheaper and cheaper, and you can buy more and more for your machine. Which is why, by the way, I avoid Apple machines because RAM upgrades in Apple machines are like horridly expensive. And they're also soldered onto the board.
Yeah.
The one I have, they're DIMM chips, or whatever you call them.
Right. The iMacs have the slots for your memory,
Yeah.
but the laptops, yeah, forget those.
Laptops, a lot of the laptops don't. Some do, some don't.
No, only
But
the
often you have to
Mac
take,
ones.
but often the laptops are really hard to take apart to update the slotted chips. It's quite a disassembly
Yeah,
process.
by intention,
Yeah.
by Apple.
Well, I'm talking about Windows machines.
No, I've never seen a Windows machine with a motherboard that had memory soldered onto the.
Oh, that's true. But
I've
still, to
never
take them
seen that.
apart to change the DIMMs, even that's a pretty big operation.
Right.
Even
Well,
HP.
the
Usually have
ones that you can
DDR3,
do that,
DDR4, et cetera, and you can actually plug those in. That's fairly easy to
yeah.
do compared to the, Mac laptops.
Well, they make those, Sam. They're just 5 to 6 grand.
Exactly. So now, who are you going after? Who's going to buy this stuff?
Not me.
Uh, the people that are just made a mistake and just are getting $10,000 a week coming into
Apple
their bank account.
fanboys is who's buying that stuff. Apple
Well,
fanboys or fangirls.
well, I'm
Whatever.
saying there's an ecosystem around all of that. That's not, I'm not in that ecosystem, but I'm saying there are people that are just putting up information on the internet and they're getting, affiliate codes and people clicking links and downloading software and they're making $40 here, $40 there, and it adds up to thousands of dollars a week. So to them,
Yep.
you know, that's nothing. Like those podcasters that have 2 million, or what did I just saw? There's a young podcaster, completely ignorant, retarded kid. And I'm going to say retarded lightly because he started whacking the table and smacked his whole computer off. So he's obviously not emotionally intelligent, but he's got 7 million people following him. So every video he puts out is roughly 5 to 6 million views. And if he puts out 10 videos a week, that means that kid's making anywhere between 40 to $50,000 a week.
Well, I guess I'll get on OnlyFans now.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's everybody, but there is a group of, say, 50,000 people that are making that kind of money right now.
More power to them, I guess.
Yeah. And that's the market I'm saying for those fancy computers and Apple Vision Pro and that sort of thing. Because if you only have 10,000 people buying a 6,000 machine, that's a decent amount of money for Apple.
It's like Porsche doing a run of a specific car and only making 500 of them.
Exactly. It's
In fact, they have to make them by hand. I couldn't automate to only make 500 of a model, I would think.
Yeah, you could.
And,
yeah. Well, the
well,
3D printing is so good now. There's new metal machines that will push with a computer on one side and then push on the other and slowly bend the metal and get the perfect curvature. It's like die casting, but in real time. And it's, I mean, if you watch the latest Raptor engine that goes on to the SpaceX Starship, they're using so many less pieces because of these 3D printing iterations, and it's quite streamlined. It's really fascinating. If you look up Raptor engine version 1, 2, and 3, you can see all the little pieces they had to print out, and then they learned how to make it one piece. So
yeah,
it's quite,
I saw a picture between version one and version three. It was
yeah,
much more compact and didn't have all the little stuff hanging off the side.
yeah. That's what I'm so excited about. The Because SpaceX and Tesla are both Elon Musk companies. Those engineers talk to each other at mixers and meetings and conferences, and when they're making new parts for that car, they're using less pieces each time they're die casting, and it's quite the nice convergence between going to space and producing metal robots.
It's like integrated
So
circuits, only integrated machinery.
and iterating that at the speed of the consumer, like they just sold 100,000, so they're like, okay, now let's quickly change it because we got another 100,000 to do. So that's why they have a bad reputation, because they're iterating so fast. But once they slow down a little bit, like the Model 3 came out in 2017, I think, it's now at a level that's really good. Their Cybertruck was a newer version, but once that gets to its fourth or fifth version, it's going to be quite a good car.
I learned that the word tech, as in technology, comes from a Latin word for man-made.
Really,
Yeah. Tech literally means not natural, man-made in the etymology from the Latin.
that makes sense.
Mhm.
That is what tech is. It's
Yeah.
man-made stuff.
Yeah.
Technical.
Yeah.
It's yeah, I don't think there is going to be a difference between the natural world and the man. Like, I think they're going to merge,
They're
like
hybrid. Well,
synthetic
everything.
biology and
I mean, we're hybridizing like crazy. I mean, we are surrounded, immersed in, and using technology items as part of our everyday living. Look in the kitchen, you're surrounded by technology.
oh yeah, I got this. Look at this cooler. This is. I think this is high tech. It's a regular cooler, but then it breaks down. It'll fold, and I can put it like a backpack. Slide it into my backpack, and then pop it out, and it's got all sorts of little pieces, and it's lined cooler. It's quite. I think this is really high tech. Little Velcro on the back.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah. Yeah, materials and technology.
yeah, it's the nicest cooler I've ever had, and it folds. So stick it in your car, and yeah, you got cold sandwiches, little block of ice.
Cold coleslaw.
Yep. Yeah, I think we've definitely cracked the code on tech. Now we have to crack the code on how do we all decide who the leader is and where we're going forward, who's going to lead us to.
We have to crack the code on governance models. We have such dysfunctional governance models and corrupt governance models. And I think our human society is due for a radical upgrade to governance systems that aren't so dysfunctional and so prone to corruption.
Who's going to try these systems though? Because the people that are corrupt aren't going to try them.
Well, I think the online cyber communities will be among the pioneers that will try online communities with innovative governance models first. Just like the utopias, 100 years ago, you had the colonies that were these little utopian colonies, like the Amana colonies and some of the others that,
Did I read this from Gabor Mate? Gabor Mate?
yeah,
It's Sam put the flaws of our leaders perfectly mirror the emotional underdevelopment of the society that elevates them to power.
yeah, yeah. I think that technocracies where you have a governance system that's essentially a synthetic technocracy, will eventually will eventually supplant a lot of traditional government. I mean, already the National Weather Bureau, NASA, uh, the Federal Reserve, these are in a sense technocracies already. The transit authorities, these are increasingly becoming like technocracies. European Space Agency, ESA, these are examples of technocracies.
Yeah, but isn't it always the case that once the technology is proliferated throughout a society where it's no longer proprietary and everyone has access to it? So once it's made a lot of money and it's, old news now, they're on to the next, and it empowers your average person. That's what I feel like is going on right now is all of the powers that be 40 years ago is now in the hands of all the individuals, meaning
Oh,
our smartphones.
look at the internet. TCP/IP was invented by Vint Cerf and others 40 years
Hmm.
ago, and then the OSI model, which is never never supplanted TCP/IP, but those are technocratic solutions which are standardized and universal, worldwide,
Yeah.
standardized technocratic infrastructure. And what the humans do is they try to hack the hell out of them,
Yeah.
try to abuse them.
I just watched a history of the Apple company. Um, and it's quite interesting that it was, you know, these little tiny computers and how many people wanted these little desktop computers? Like it really shouldn't have happened that way in the 70s. Like it should have stayed in the corporate world and not
Well,
into people's homes.
the mainframe era. Yeah, because the mini computer, the DEX and the others of the mini computers, they really overthrew IBM and Burroughs and the other, the big mainframe developers. That was a disruptive technology, the mini computer, and then the desktop computer is the successor to the mini computer. And now we have the Internet of Things, which are, my thermostat's Internet of Things. It talks to the internet. My thermostat talks to the internet and control, and the electric company can turn my thermostat up and down on special, super hot days.
Oh yeah, you click that button.
I gave it permission to help save energy. Uh, for my conditions, I don't really care. So they'll turn my thermostat up and down on what do they call these special hot day, whatever they're called.
Where are they taxing the grid?
And not a tax on the grid, just where everybody's running the air conditioner because it's 95-degree days or whatever they are.
Yeah.
So they'll regulate your thermostat, and they'll also report back your monthly usage, so you can get statistics on how often your heating and air conditioning systems were on.
Yeah, I think that's a natural flow of all of these things that we're controlling now will just be behind the scenes and controlled by large mainframes.
Yeah,
That'd
absolutely.
be a net. It just it'll just fade away into the background.
That so the techno infrastructure will, replace human managed systems increasingly so.
Hey Sam, I'm not able to click on all those things if you want to
I can read
say
them.
what you're
I
saying.
know
Okay.
religion is an embarrassing human practice of convincing the mind to ignore common sense logic. I don't believe that. I think that's what I'm looking for. Mischaracterization.
I think people really want to know how to be good servants of God. Like I've been watching this group of Muslim people that are proselytizing, but they're all arguing amongst themselves of who's the better follower of God. And I think that's where it gets a little scary is when they're arguing about it as opposed to agreeing that however you're following God, as long as you're trying to follow God, then that's it. Like you don't have to argue about.
Think of a practice which is like good, better, best, saintly, divine. I mean, most
Mhm.
people are lucky to get to the level good, slightly to the positive, where they're making a net contribution and not a net loss, but good, better, best, that's systems thinking. And then saintly divine is more theological because that's sort of, beyond the realistic objective, except for, world class.
Yeah.
Like an athlete's world class, Olympic world class athletes. Most people never get to be that good. Most people who go to the Olympics never win anything. They just go and they
Yeah.
compete, but they don't win anything. So good, better, best, saintly, divine. I mean, you're lucky to get to better, better than average, or better than the person who's slightly to the good of median.
Yeah. I think that's where I'm at. It's just if you can learn the skills enough to where you have a basic knowledge of it and you could contribute if there was a team of people doing that thing. So, in other words, you don't need to be a master contractor or master carpenter, but if you know enough to just, I can cut a piece of board, I can screw in a screw, and I can bang in a nail and take the nail out. If you know those three basic things, you're highly productive on a crew of people building something.
Yeah. You can just know enough to maintain something so it doesn't degrade.
Yeah, if you just get a list of board sizes to cut and you could just sit there on the side and cut all those boards. And then I was watching a crew right next to my house, and one guy was the cutter, one guy was the, I'm going to put the oil on it. He's oiling up the wood, protecting it. And then the other guy was the one putting it in place. And that's three people that are highly effective,
Yeah, each one is a specialist.
or each one has a different skill level. So they have to do like, you
Yeah.
got to paint the boards. It doesn't take a lot of skill to just put liquid on wood, but it is a skill if you don't do it right.
Too much, too little, you know.
Hmm.
You undercoat it, you overcoat it. It's either way is a problem.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, if we all learned enough skills to be able to pitch in when needed.
When I go to the fix-it shop, we have people who are at different skill levels at fix-it jobs. And I've gotten to the point where I'm the least competent of the crew that I work with. And that if I can't do it, then I hand it over to the necktie who will figure it out where I didn't have the wherewithal. And
Yeah.
so I can see even in the fix-it shop, we have levels of skill at different kinds of work. I tend to do the easy jobs, the no-brainers, and let the people who've got better skills do the harder jobs. Whereas in the past, I would have done the harder jobs. Now I do the easier jobs. I'm just happy to fix something that the customer themselves can't fix, that otherwise is relatively trivial.
Do you have a dedicated solderer on your team?
We have more than one people who know how to solder. The funny thing is, a lot of devices have a thermal fuse that can overheat. So they have a thermal fuse, and twice, first me and then the other guy, made the mistake of trying to solder in a new thermal fuse. You can't solder a
Mm.
thermal fuse because it gets too hot from the solder and you blow it. You have to connect it without using solder. And I did it. I was the first one to make that mistake, and then the next guy made the same mistake a week later.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard an interesting conversation this week. It was Vivek Ramaswamy and Mark Cuban arguing about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh yeah.
And it was really interesting to hear the two ideologies go head to head, and they were loving it because they both didn't care about people. They just wanted lots of money. So in the end, they were arguing what will make them more money. There wasn't, I mean, Mark Cuban was trying to act like he was all high and mighty and taking care of, people, but he was honest enough to say, I just want to take care of my kids. And if you have kids, you should take care of your kids. But I don't care who I'm hiring. I just want them to make me more money. So if it's diversity that makes me more money, I want that.
I
Whatever makes
asked
me more money.
Gemini to explain what DEI hire meant because I didn't know what it meant. And it refused to tell me. It says, I won't tell you, I won't talk about politics. So then I had to look
Mm,
it up separately. And then I asked it, tell me about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it explained that, but it wouldn't explain DEI hire as an acronym.
interesting. Yeah, it made me think from a systems standpoint that the more homogeneous you are, the less likely you'll have for success because you won't be able to pivot and move quickly in a business environment.
Well, you need
So
enough
people,
specialization that you can do something better than the average amateur.
well, it just reminds me of the car companies in the 70s and 80s in Japan that were saying, if you know a way to do this better, press the stop the line button, fix it, and then turn it back on because that'll just make us better.
Yeah.
And that idea of doing things in like we're all carpenter ants. And if you see an ant that is out of line, but they're going to find more food in that direction, let them go. Like don't stop them from finding the food. Let them go. They're not supposed to be scouter ants, but if they found it by mistake, let them find it so
Yep.
they can tell the other ants. I feel like that's kind of where we are in information technology is we need people to think outside the box in order to find the things that we have yet to discover.
Yep.
And if that takes diversity to do that or whatever formula makes that happen, that's what we should do.
Well, I mean, amateurs are often the innovators.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
look at this breakdancing in the Olympics. That was started by teenagers in the Bronx 30 some years ago.
Asking new questions. That's it, Sam. Yep. That's my daughter asked me, why can't I pour water on the iPhone? And I said, because it will ruin the electronics. And I said, you want to watch a video on it? And it pulled up 5 videos of people dunking electrical systems underwater and they're still working. So it proved me to be a complete hypocrite because
Used
I'm
to
showing her,
used to take the circuit boards out of deck machines and put them in the dishwasher and wash them. And you could
yeah,
do.
that I just found this out, Barry. My whole life, I didn't understand that it's the minerals in the water that ruins the electronics. If there's no minerals in the water, you can
You can
dunk it underwater.
put it in the dishwasher as long as you're using the right kind of water.
Yeah, I didn't
That's,
know this. That's what I'm saying. These are, it turned me, I learned something by an amateur, a 3-year-old asking me, why can't I pour water on my electronics?
yeah,
So
it's
this
not
is
while
news
it's
to
running.
me, Barry.
Say again.
This is news to me. Are you telling me I could have washed those Unibus and VME boards?
You can as long as you're using the right materials. If you're using the wrong kind, water that's got salt in it or some other minerals, don't do it. But you can wash them in solvents that are not contaminated. But you take them out, you can clean them, you can wash them, let them dry, put them back in, and they'll be fine. And those are the component era machines of the 70s. You could do that.
I suspect you can't do that quite so easily today.
Maybe not, because I think some of the components today maybe don't survive the unless you're using the very carefully chosen solvents.
Yeah, but who's got that?
Well, I mean, whatever.
They make Kango water machines from Japan. You can, different water process. I have this vision. I wanted to run this by you guys. It's a crazy vision, but I'm wondering if on the coast near San Luis Obispo, if they could put giant desalination plants up and down the coast, just slightly inland, and pump the water all the way back up to the top of the sequoias and down to Arizona and Southern California.
I don't know if you have to, how high you have to pump it. You only have to pump it just above grade level of the destination, maybe not more than, 100 meters or something.
Well, I'm saying if you pumped it higher up, you would change the water table in the whole entire region all the way down to Colorado.
Well, it depends what you did with the water. If you only kept it inside of pipes, it would never go into the ground until it was end up being used at the final destination.
That's my point is imagine a giant, massive, multi-trillion dollar project to pump water up to the highest mountain in California and let it flow down through all the
Oh, on the eastern side of the
ecosystems
divide.
I
on both
suspect
sides.
Elon would step forward and say, "No, I've got your solution. I've got the boring company. Let me give you the
That's what I'm.
solution." You know?
There you go. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you could have, yeah.
the Ogallala, what's it called? The Ogallala, well, that's not called water table. What the hell is it called? Aquifer. The Ogallala Aquifer underneath the Midwest has been being pumped out, since pioneer times. And as it pumps out, it's like a sponge. It gets compressed, and you can't refill it because the soil above it is subsiding on top of the aquifer. And eventually, they're going to pull all the water out of the Ogallala Aquifer, and I don't know what the hell they're going to do in the Midwest unless climate change gives them enough rain, you know, so they don't need
Well,
the
I'm saying, yeah, if you could control that water flow, that would take the desert in Nevada and turn that into a giant, beautiful forest. It would change everything.
We're talking about the U.S. equivalent of Three Gorges Dam, then, right?
Yeah, exactly. But not just a dam, it's coming from the ocean. So when it's raining, it's filling up all these systems. And then when the rain stops, you pump it up.
Yeah.
And I don't see anything stopping that from reality in terms of physics. It's just a question of will people donate their land
I mean,
to, and it,
we move oil and coal around. I guess we can probably move water around as easily as we can move coal and oil.
You'd have to do the economic analysis, see, is it more economical to do it that way or to build just a bunch of really big collectors?
well, I'm saying both. I'm not saying it's not one or the other, dude. Both.
And then there's the other technology of just, this new technology just pulls humidity out of the air,
Hmm.
creates water that way.
And create like what I'm just learning from a little high desert area that I'm in is that the more that we grow the from okay, so we had a fire 4 years ago. The first thing that came in was mustard seed plant, which gave a little bit of shade to the bottom, and that creates, the dew point in the morning, which collects a little bit of moisture. But the more you ramp it up on levels, the more moisture stays in the system, which just creates more moisture. It's just a building effect, a ladder effect. And you could do that for the entire Southwest of America if you started now. It could be a 50-year project, but there would be no problems with, you know, this dry climate type of thing because it would collect moisture and continue to create rain for all of the eastern seaboard,
Yeah,
which it does already.
pine forests put out some kind of aerosol that helps seed the clouds and generate more rain than if there wasn't a pine forest.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you could take the salt, I mean, salt is valuable. Now, we're breathing mostly nitrogen. The nitrogen is valuable. And if you could utilize that in the process of pumping it from the ocean up to there's a giant mountain range that runs down the middle of California. You could create so much food in that area. You could feed the entire world.
Sierra Nevada.
So this wouldn't just be a project for America. It could be a project to feed the entire, you know, the population of North and South America.
There's probably enough sunlight that if you somehow figured out how to harness it, you could use it to evaporate ocean water for domestic use as fresh water.
Yeah,
And I'm no doubt there are research groups working on those technologies.
it just take a really large investment of multiple countries to invest in that, and states working together. But of course, it's just on my mind because all these forest fires. If there was more water, then we wouldn't. We could, you know. I just have a vision of I saw this Japanese robotic tree trimmer, and a guy was piloting it with a little VR headset. So if you had those type of things running through the forest, trimming up and maintaining the forest, that would really change everything in California.
Thing is, you don't want rainy seasons followed by drought. You want kind of steady supply of rainwater year round so you don't have these droughts, which then cause the forest fires.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You wouldn't have in the drought years, you're pumping it from the ocean.
Yeah.
When it's not a drought year, you don't need to pump it because it's
You
naturally
don't
coming
want
up.
these wide swings. You want something that's more even year round.
Right. But if you did that engineering project over on the western side of America, you could replicate that in other parts of the world, over in Russia and China in the dry deserts. And then we would have a different problem in the world. We'd have an abundance too much of moisture, and when we'd have mold and fungus and new bacteria growing, and we'd have a whole nother
I
viruses
mean,
and
I mean, engineering climate change, you still have unknown side effects of climate change, whether it's engineered or natural climate change.
yeah.
So you have to develop the models of how the ecosystems evolve under varying climatic conditions. And I don't think we have enough knowledge yet to model that reliably, foresee all the
Not
downsides.
not yet, but if we do learn how to communicate to insects and animals, and we can tell different populations of insects to move from region to region, we could do some pretty interesting climate engineering.
Well, it's easy enough to entice them to move. We just have to give them a better habitat and they'll move. They'll move to the
Well,
most optimal habitat almost, you know.
you could give, that's what I'm saying. You could give a bet like wetlands, you could create these habitats, but then you could also incentivize with different sounds that were driving them out of different regions while you're engineering. So if you imagine a Buddhist state of mind where you're saying, okay, all the ants, we're going to bore through this mountain here. You guys need to move. And you send off signals, and all the ants get out of the way, and the beetles and the insects.
Probably the noise of the boring will drive them away.
I'm just saying, can you imagine a society that actually cared about the insects?
Yeah, I mean, there are people who care about insects for better or for worse, the beneficial insects and the ones that carry diseases. So, yes.
Yeah, I don't just mean entomologists and scientists. I mean society at large. That's
I don't know that you'll get society at large to care about anything except their immediate well-being.
I think it will change. I think if
I mean, it'll change. The better that you get a liberal education, the more you'll care about things beyond your immediate well-being. And we have a long ways to go in education, giving everybody a general education. A lot of states are now giving free community college tuition to anybody, adults and high school graduates alike. Massachusetts just passed a law, free tuition to 2 years of a community college for any age.
Yeah. Do you see them able to charge the money that they're charging now for education 50 years from now? Is there any, that seems pointless to me if you can get that education in like right now, I can just ask Google for any
You can get a
info on
pretty damn
anything.
good education just on YouTube alone, if you
Yeah.
bother. If you bother.
Well, what else are they going to do? Are they going to work? They don't need to work anymore. That's my point is that it's
Well, who was it? Bucky Fuller who said, a full economy, nobody has to work. Yeah, it was his utopian vision that machines will do all the hard work and everybody will have leisure time to study liberal arts or whatever they want to study, literature, you name it, the arts.
Well, it's
I mean,
definitely moving in that direction.
look at the economy, just Taylor Swift alone. How many billions of dollars of entertainment economy and travel and whatnot that she just one person responsible for.
Well, she's not one person. There's a
Oh, I
huge
mean,
team
I mean,
behind her that's
she's the talent
pushing.
behind this whole shebang. Like she's got a whole team working for her, but without her talent, well, there wouldn't be anything.
No, you can replace her in 2 seconds. There, you can just throw up another person in that role. I'm just letting you know from the music industry, it's really easy to find another person that's more
Yeah,
talented than her.
well, has Beyonce done anything comparable?
Yeah, absolutely. Her tickets go for the same prices.
$500 a ticket or something, whatever it is.
$1,000, 50. I'm just saying that they're just tricking people into believing that it's worth the value that it's not worth.
Except for Vienna, poor Vienna, they lost out.
Yeah, it's in marketing. It's if you tell everybody Mercedes is the best car you could possibly own, and you have to pay another $30,000 for this car, even though it's the same. A Toyota Camry is just as good a car, if not better. It's the name. It's the brand name. That's branding.
No, I've been driving Japanese cars now for 30 years. Yeah, something like that.
They work well.
5 years. Drove a Mazda, I drove a Honda Civic, a Mazda, and now another Honda Civic since the early 90s.
And if you want the high end Honda, you can get an Acura,
Yeah,
different brand.
the current one I bought is a 2012. I bought a used 2012 Honda Civic
Yeah.
a year and a
I,
half ago.
I'm saying tricking people with branding, I don't think is creating value as much as creating a joy of exclusivity. Like if
People,
I was wearing a shirt right now, which this is a used shirt that came from a thrift store, that's I don't even know where. Like in other words, the Hillside Borough County Public Schools. So I don't care what's on the shirt. It's thick. It's got good cotton. It's a nice shirt. But I'm saying if I was wearing an $800 t-shirt that was custom designer made that you could never afford or Sam could never afford, and I was throwing it in your face, look at me. I'm wearing an $800 t-shirt. You'll never afford this. Like that's not value.
I would shrug. I said, that's what you want to spend your money on. It's your money. I don't care.
But that's what they're doing with Taylor Swift. That's my point.
Well, yeah, people will go to her live concerts instead of watching them on YouTube or whatever or on television.
Instead of buying their kids food.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah. Instead
So
of
they're
paying
using
back their
that.
student loans.
I mean, there was a girl from Omaha, Nebraska who flew to Geneva because it was cheaper to fly to Geneva and buy tickets there than to pay for the domestic American ticket prices. And, she flew to Geneva and there's no show.
Yeah. It's just a marketing trick, is what I'm saying.
I mean, my Facebook feed is filled with pictures of Taylor Swift. Every fourth or fifth item is a picture of Taylor Swift now.
Well, stop clicking.
They're just there. I mean, last month it was every fourth or fifth picture was Linda Ronstadt. I'm not sure who figures out what to push into these Facebook feeds, but every
The
month
AI.
it's a different entertainer is being featured,
Yeah.
saturation feeds.
But the computer system said if you live in this area and you're this age group and you bought this stuff at the grocery store, then this is the picture that we're going to show you next on your feed. It's pretty intelligent if you think about it. They've been doing this since 2012. Facebook has had AI since 2012. They had algorithms that were deciding which feed to put next from your first
The
your
ones that
friends
hurt
and
me
then
are those
advertisers.
sponsored feeds with the clickbait lead-ins to a story where it's a cliffhanger lead-in, and then the actual site doesn't even have that story in it.
Yep.
I've learned to click X on all those sponsored clickbaits.
Yeah, working in internet marketing, I was always blown away at what succeeded and what worked. It was the things that were absolutely the dumbest, most reptilian brain centered, like what's the latest one now? See yourself as on Facebook. I've been noticing in 1920s, 30s,
Yeah,
40s.
yeah, age progression or age regression photos.
Right, but those companies that make those, that do all the data collecting, I was working for those back in the late 90s in San Diego. It was a group of companies, marketing companies that created all these take a quiz and survey businesses. And if you can get 1 million people, you're doing pretty good. And some of these are getting over 50 to 100 million a week around the world. And this is a lot of money. I'm just saying, like the Google ad network that was created, it's a powerful, powerful network to auction off what's going to come up next and to buy that space. It's very lucrative for everyone involved. It's
People are auctioning off fossils now. Fossils are going for like millions of dollars as collector's items.
mhm. I'm just saying
Dinosaurs.
what we value and what will allow us to survive as a society needs to find an equilibrium between, a $5 million car and a $50,000 battery backup system in a storm. That's what I'm saying.
Well, that's one technology that I think has a future is improved batteries, more efficient, denser energy storage, longer living batteries. I think there's a big growth curve in battery technology ahead next 10, 15, 20 years.
What did you want to say, Sam? I saw you post something.
I said basically, this kind of shift is driven by how we evaluate utility. And how we evaluate utility is based on literally the values. And values are difficult to change. Usually it takes 1 or 2 generations for any new value to get any kind of prominence.
Yep.
So training any AI is going to be based on all these hidden, you know, values that are already compiled into our system. As
Yep.
far as, hey, is this useful? Is it not? That's the utility function. So that until we get explicit about that, and until we know how to reason about this and where we want to go, and then train this way, it's all going to have the values that are already inculcate in the current system. Remember Microsoft Bob from a few years ago?
Yep.
Same thing, right? It was just basically reflected what society was doing.
Paperclip.
Society was using N-word, it would use the N-word. Okay. So until we get explicit about all this and intentional about where we want to go, AI is only just giving us what we do. It's mirroring our behavior.
It's interesting. 30 years ago, there was a big notion that if we ever came across intelligent life, outside of the planet Earth, it would be a big breakthrough. Now we're going to have intelligent life that's synthetic, manufactured intelligence instead of intelligent life from outer space. And it may have
Well,
this, well, maybe not the same effect, but it'll be somewhat comparable to the same idea.
but in that same vein of thinking, you need to ping pong back and forth from generation to generation. So every generation is going to want to go against the values of their parents, and it has to swing back and forth a few times before it proliferates through all society.
True.
Synthetic protein
But
food.
I think that's because we really didn't understand what was going on in society. We didn't have the completeness, the thoroughness, the detail we have today. So I think future generations, starting with this one, can actually know, hey, what did the previous generations try? What does our current generation try? And really dampen the oscillation effect and converge more quickly. I think that's what the current generation can do. That's how we're going to level up, not by
Well,
continuing this oscillation to the same extremes. That's
right.
for sure a recipe for, continued disaster.
The extremes, you mean?
Just letting the
Because I
pendulum swing as far as it wants. We don't want to do that. We want to constrain how far the pendulum swings each time around.
I think that's a very Asian notion and not a Western notion, a very Eastern
Thank
philosophy,
you.
not a Western. Yeah,
Appreciate
and there's nothing wrong with that. I love Eastern culture and I love Eastern philosophy. At the same time, I was born in the United States, so I have this like cowboy rebel in me that wants to be a punk rocker, like go against the grain completely. Just
But if we're
yeah.
looking at
So
the future and we're trying to create a society that thrives and survives, okay, we have to think in terms of that future. So we have to think in terms of the we, in my expression,
mhm.
not so much just the I. The I is still there, but the we in this society is undervalued, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's the balance right there is allowing the I to be the outlier and to create the most magnet
Frozen? Oh, yep. Joshua just
will.
froze.
The
His audio's back.
Yeah,
what's that?
Josh, you froze for about 10 seconds.
Video
Oh,
froze, but
am
your
I?
audio. Now you're
Oh,
back.
I'm back.
Yeah,
Can you see me?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
I
you're
was
good.
just thinking, like, if we dampen the I, then we don't get those Janis Joplin's, Jimi Hendrix, Steve Jobs type characters because they try to dampen Steve Jobs and kick him out of his own company. He was quite the out of the box thinker.
He should kick Elon Musk out of his own company.
They try,
Well,
but
and
you
the
say
AI
that, and I would beg to differ because I voted him back into the company. I voted
was
for
it
him to
Sam
stay.
Altman? Is he the one who got kicked out, or one of the AI guys got kicked
Yeah.
out?
But that's what I'm saying is with Sam's, if it's more of a we situation, it doesn't have to go to these extremes of kicking people out.
Yeah.
I think that's too extreme an impression because I think the value of individualism, there's no question to that, right?
Hmm.
So I think the question is the individual thinking only of the individual, or is the individual thinking not only of the individual, but also of the community? And that's where we see too many, particularly the especially greedy, not show
Well,
one bit of care for the community. Trump is an extreme example of that. Okay. But
That's the
most Republicans
narcissist.
actually are like this. Okay.
It's the narcissist versus the saint axis. You got more narcissists than saints on our planet.
Yeah.
that's not true.
Yeah. I don't think it's quite that bad, Barry. I
Yeah.
think
Well,
that
I guess
they're
maybe
just more
some of the,
pronounced and
yeah,
they seem to be louder.
yeah, the saints tend to work behind the scenes. They're unsung, the unsung hero.
Yeah, I just heard a beautiful song my friend sang to me yesterday. The working man hero is something that I want to be.
Yeah.
Because they'll kick you if you're too clever, they'll kick you. If you're too stupid, they'll kick you. You got to be somewhere in that middle. You can't be
You
too
want to
smart.
be you want to be invisible enough not to be attacked, but visible enough to be hired to do the job.
Well, I think Sam's onto something with this balance because I feel like the whole world has that societal balance where in the Eastern cultures, it's more groupthink. In the West, it's individual. And then Europe is supposed to have that balance of somewhere in the middle. And then the African continent, at least most of those, they have a nice balance as well, in my opinion, of groupthink versus the individual. And so something needs to pull the entire world into equilibrium. And it's a little too extreme on all the sides. And then you have the
Imbalance.
Middle East. Yeah, I'm saying there's
Koyanisqaatsi, Koyanisqaatsi, things out of balance.
mhm,
Yeah, too much Koyanisqaatsi, too much imbalance,
yeah.
too much oscillation between extremes.
It's also there's a wisdom to older countries that have tried all these things already. These like Belgium or Switzerland or Denmark or you know Finland and Norway, and they have a certain wisdom. They've gone against Russia and failed in Finland. I'm saying they've tried things. They're like, okay, we're not going to try that. We're going to chill back and let you guys figure that stuff out. And it's sort of this hubris that's happening because the West is so new in terms of power. This is a really new. I mean, on the world stage, what is it? 100 years now? We've been in power since
Since the
the
World Wars.
20s.
Really since the Second World War. That really ravaged Europe pretty bad.
I would say the First World War. It started America gained a lot of power in the turn of the century around the world. Taking over the Philippines and a lot of other places around the world. They really got pretty full of themselves by the turn of the century. But yeah, sorry, my shade cloth just fell. I need to fix it. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm still listening.
well, we have a long ways to go on a theoretical upward curve. Don't know whether any of us are going to live to see us make a whole lot of progress on that upward curve, although certainly can hope for it, pray for it, wish for it, plan for it, but also lament that it's probably not going to happen the way we'd like to see it.
Now, what makes you think that? Is that a story, a narrative you've been told, or is that something that
No,
you
it's just,
truly
I mean,
believe?
80 years old, I've seen the arc of the 20th century, half of the second half of the 20th century and a quarter century into the 21st century. And I don't see us, the technology sector is making good progress, but the social civic sector isn't.
But you haven't been in the social civic sector for 40 years.
I've never been in it because I never had any faith that in it or belief that I could make any progress in it.
Yeah.
The only talent was in the tech sector, where I thought I could make some progress, where I had a marketable skill.
I'm
But
just saying there's
I still can't promise that the tech sector is going to save us. It could save us, but it's I don't think it's sufficient.
The
It
tech
can be,
sector will not save us without more wisdom.
yeah, at
And tech sector is not about attaining wisdom, not in general.
least not yet.
It's about attaining competitive share and profit.
from my experience, there's just a few families. When I say a few, I mean maybe 12 to 15 families that influence millions and millions of families.
Yeah.
And I'm saying the people that propped up Jamie Dimon and the people that propped up the Wall Street barons that are, you know, propping up the government system at this moment, it looks a lot like a mafia.
I
And the
mean, I
same
went to
thing is happening in
Stanford, and
China.
William Stanford was a robber baron, so maybe there'll be an Elon Musk University after he's gone that will do a lot of good to make up for the evil that he's doing currently.
Yeah. Those systems that are based on greed and power are very effective, but I
Omaha's
don't see
Eppley
them lasting.
Airfield is named after a crook who made a lot of money um, doing illegal things, and then he gave the money to this. When he died, the city built an airport named it after him.
So since we're talking about power and corruption, does the name Leonard Leo mean anything to either of you?
Doesn't ring any bells.
Don't know it.
Does the Counselor for National Policy mean anything to you?
Is that an American national policy? Never heard of
Yes.
it either.
I saw a very illuminating video in the last couple of days. I think it was just yesterday, about how the Heritage Society, the Project 2025, a number of other Christian evangelist organizations, a number of the Supreme Court justices, in fact, five of them by self-acclaim, all trace their root influence back to the CNP, the Council for National Policy. And this guy, Leonard Leo, is instrumental in funding a bunch of this stuff. He's got the billions behind it. In
Where
fact,
did
he
he,
claims that he personally was instrumental in placing at least five of those right-wing Supreme Court justices on the Supreme Court.
how did he earn his
Yep,
money? What was his line of work?
I'm learning about him as we speak, but these are the people behind the scenes that are pulling the strings with their money and letting, puppets like Trump and others, basically be the front.
There's the Koch brothers.
exactly.
We heard about the Koch brothers. Is he sort of in the same vein as the Koch brothers?
Koch brothers are way more visible than this guy is.
That's what I mean. But
People have known about the Koch brothers for decades. I
yeah,
just heard about this guy, Leonard Leo, just yesterday. Now, I'm
Do
sure
you know about
others have known about
The
him,
Crown
but there's a
family?
woman named, I believe her name is Jennifer Cohn, Cohn, that did a lot of investigative research into all of this and exposed all these connections. It's really, really valuable work. In fact, I'm hoping she still survives another decade or more because I think the
Yeah.
people that are behind the scenes don't like what she is discovering.
let me
Well,
see.
just
Yeah,
to share with you, Sam, a lot of these influential people end up in this little place called Santa Barbara, California, and Montecito and Hope Ranch. I'm saying if you look at Reed and Rakow, the people that did the whole, Michael Milken and the 1988 crisis, they have a little house there in Hope Ranch. And I'm just saying, when I grew up in that town and you start to talk to their children and you end up at dinner at their houses, you start to see the country club get smaller and smaller and smaller. And it seems like okay, wait, there's no way this one family could have this much influence. But when you look at the patents on the wall as you're walking through their house and you see how many millions of dollars per week it's bringing in, like the company I worked for, they made the little tiny thing that when you press a CD into a case, they own that patent. That patent brought in millions and millions of dollars. And I'm just saying there's some people that have amounts of money that you would never believe. Like especially in medical equipment and weapons manufacturing and Raytheon is a big company that's out of Santa Barbara. And I'm saying there's some people that are making more money than you could ever imagine, and you will never hear their names. And it sounds like you're crazy when you talk about these people, but that's because the general public doesn't ever hear those names.
Oh, yeah.
And there's not that many of them. And it's very powerful. They can make very powerful decisions.
And the more behind the scenes, the less visible they are, the more powerful they are because their influence is untraced and
Yeah.
so unperturbed.
Well, to me, what I learned was in living in New York with these finance people is how the banks launder the money through Europe and different parts of the world. And that laundering of money is really hard you can't, once you expose it, you're gone.
I still want to
You
see how
don't
Deutsche
exist.
Bank was handling all the funneling of money into Trump.
yeah.
That
That's
still
one of,
hasn't been adequately reported.
Trump is just one of those public figures that is a douchebag, but he's nothing compared to the people behind the scenes.
I know, but at
I
least
mean,
starting with him and tracing the money backwards is a way to go.
yeah.
I
Do you
mean,
know Veronica
$600
Webb?
million, dollars, $600 million Trump got through Deutsche Bank, I believe.
Mhm. Well, that's what I was learning this week was the history of Hollywood of how these large studios would leverage their money to make these big major motion pictures in the oil industry at the time, which was horrible. It's causing lots of problems in that city. That city's a mess. It still is a shell of what a city should be. It's just disgusting. It's a gross, built off of these studios and oil and pumping water in. I'm sure you've seen the movie Chinatown.
Hmm.
So I'm saying with that type of history of a bootlegger making millions of dollars and then turning into a family called the Kennedys and then getting power and then trying to expose the other corruption that were not in that family and then getting shot in front of the world. I mean, these type of things that are systemic, if they continue to the point of controlling the minds of all the people in the world, it will collapse upon itself. Or, you know, who is going to stand up against these people? Who is going to change the narrative? Who's going to be the Gandhi of the time, if you will?
We need a decentralized network of fair witnesses with a permanent ledger of reporting and a way of vetting the truth.
Brooke Gladstone.
What was that?
Brooke Gladstone.
Does that exist?
She is the host of the NPR weekly series called On the Media, which is broadcast on public radio every Saturday or Sunday. She has one a week hour episode called On the Media.
Well, that can certainly be one outlet, but I think she needs to be part of this, like I say, the decentralized, opt-in network that provides eventual transparency.
She's one of, I mean, she's not the only one, but she's one that you may not have heard of unless you listen to public radio on a 24/7 basis.
In fact, I think that's one thing that's worth spending a few cycles thinking about.
Well, who controls public radio?
It's government funded, isn't it?
Well,
Mm-hmm.
it has some government funding, but I think most of it comes from underwriters um, and the public who
And
give money,
contributions,
contributions from the
big companies, rich companies.
Right. But if they're giving millions of dollars in contributions and they say something that they don't like, they're going to get to the executives at the public radio and say, no, you can't produce that story.
Yep. Well, in this society, everything's subject to funding sources.
I think it's moving the other way, though. I think as much as they're trying to control it, it's like a giant water balloon with weak walls in different areas, and it's not that thick as they'd like it to be. They're trying to make the lining of the balloon thick, but it's getting pressed in different parts and getting thin, and it will burst.
Well, I think that
And
started back when somebody had a bright idea of putting cameras and microphones in every phone. Well, microphones, obviously,
mhm.
but cameras, you know, and now it's
Well, that was, yeah, Steve Jobs and his group.
no, I think that was wasn't there a PDA that had it first?
Well, there was
Maybe not.
plenty of PDA. Yeah, there was.
Wait, did Qualcomm do one with a camera? I forget.
Qualcomm makes the chips.
Yeah, but
They
they
do a
made
lot
a
of other
device
things.
before they just specialized in chips. They actually made a PDA device first.
Yeah,
But I forget
I
whether they
mean,
had a camera.
who was the impetus? I don't know, but who proliferated? It was
Yes,
definitely the
iPhone
Apple
definitely
company.
proliferated it. Yes.
Yeah, I
Same
don't know who
followers.
the impetus of that movement was, but it's a great movement, and I do think what you're saying just needs to continue
Yeah.
with all of our devices, our
Actually,
IoT devices.
here's a name from the past. Do you remember the company Flip, as in flip devices?
flip phone.
They used to have these little handheld video cameras, and they got bought by Cisco for like $600 million. I know a couple of friends of mine got super rich based on that. But then within like 2, 3 years, when the iPhone came out, that whole market just completely went away.
Yeah.
So Cisco basically wasted about $600 million on that deal because they didn't see the iPhone coming.
Well, I don't think America sees like Huawei is not in America at this moment, but they're gaining capital in China like crazy, and they're doing really amazing things in terms of affordable technologies. You can diss Elon Musk all you want, but he did open source all the patents to electric
That's
cars,
one thing he
and
did
BY,
well. Yeah.
yeah, it's really good. And BYD and a lot of other companies are making incredible cars, so they will come to America. It's just a
In fact,
question
in
of when.
fact, Tesla's lost its number one position in EVs. That Chinese company you mentioned is now like the number one EV maker in the world.
Well, they partnered with a lot of companies. That's what I'm saying is the whole block and clone idea of China in the 90s. It's, I think not only is it working, but we're going to have to become that 50 years from now. We're going to have to block and clone
Yeah.
or I truly believe that this country will be speaking Chinese at some point.
Well, look, it's only possible if you don't have patent and copyright laws holding you back. And across international
Yeah.
boundaries, you don't. You can disrespect them all you want. So I think, patent and copyright laws do hold, progress back because of this IP slash, profit motive for first mover. It's not a society benefiting mechanism. It's a I benefiting mechanism. If we thought
Right.
more as a society, we should get rid of all that.
But
That's why open source is so cool. Faster development happens in open source. You got thousands of people collaborating. I can make a one-line change, but if 1,000 people make a one-line change every day, think about that versus a proprietary small team in Microsoft or Qualcomm or Apple.
I
yeah.
don't know if you need to learn Chinese anymore, that Babelfish is now a technological reality.
Well, you do because there's a lot of thinking that goes around the culture of that language. There's a lot of ways of thinking that could proliferate 3 or 4 generations from now to allow them to use the technologies that were created in the 2020s right now. They'll need to learn them 20 years from now if they want to make their humanoid robots do the things that they're doing in other parts of the world. Meaning, our humanoid robots will only work so well, but why is it that theirs can not only take care of your grandparents, but they can also keep a really clean, neat house, and ours just make a mess in the house? And what did they learn? How did they program their actuators in a different format or fashion than we programmed our actuators? And why are theirs more sensitive in certain arenas when they're sweeping the floor? I'm just saying that's going to be the reality is how well can you train robots to integrate with society? That's what it comes down to.
You think the Chinese will be able to figure that out because their language makes it more likely that they can do it?
No, they have way more smart people.
Oh, well, they do. They've got what, 4 billion people or something like
They
that?
got more people doing PhDs than I think we have in all of college, it seems like, or some number like that.
Yeah.
It's scary how
I
the
think
numbers just don't compare.
it's different thought processes. Like when you're tackling a new project and you lay out the project with a timeline and a Gantt chart, I think that's what is the difference is the way that they iterate and get to the end versus the way that we do.
Not only that, they don't think about the quarter profits. They think about the 50-year objective.
Right.
So they're cooperating on that 50-year objective. They're not necessarily competing with each other for 3 months down the line, where a lot of our wasted energy is going.
You think they'll get to general AI ahead of us then?
Absolutely.
Arguably.
Well, because they're more general in terms of do you think their language do you think the kanji, the Chinese alphabet is better than the Western alphabet?
No, but I'm sure that a lot of their research is based on the same standard English language, because all major papers, all the major models, a lot of
Well,
the training data.
that's my point. They have both,
Yes, they do. And they'll benefit
and
from
we
that
only
too.
have one.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
I don't think it. I think it's who. This is my theory: is who can integrate all the knowledge that we've ever created in the history of humanity to be more functional, useful, practical, and ubiquitous
Yeah.
quicker.
It won't be the country that says we don't need to learn anyone else's language.
Yep.
Whereas every other country says, yeah, we better learn another language.
Then again, Wikipedia is available in how many languages now?
It's a small subset of the training data,
Well, there's probably at least 20 languages, I think, something like that.
probably more, but it's a small subset of the training data.
I just found out my daughter is being trained by Russian people. There's a TV show she watches called The Fixies. I thought it was Canadian. Turns out it's Russian. And the more I watch it with her, the more she's learning Russian values.
Like
It's
what?
very harsh the way they talk to each other on the show. It's like, Tom Thomas, you're stupid. What are you doing? And it's like, wait, what are you watching? What is this show? And it's teaching kids how to utilize the technologies around you on a day-to-day basis and what's inside of the computers. And
That's useful. These how does it work kind of videos and how to fix it kind of videos. Those are all.
it's useful, but the mentality is very different than you'd have to watch it. It's hard to explain, but
I mean,
it's
I loved Watch Mr. Wizard, but he had a fabulous bedside manner with the youngsters who were on his show with him.
well, it's sort of the thing I don't like is the divisiveness and sneakiness of the show itself, because the fixies are like little pixies. They're like little gremlins that live inside of the machine.
Uh,
And they say, if you see us, don't let the secret out. This is our secret. Don't tell your parents. So there's some really deep psychological stuff that they're using to train the kids. Like it's definitely a little bit, it makes me a little cautious.
brainwashing, would you call it?
Yeah, but see, even
Um,
decades ago, Russia was very explicit saying, we're going to take over your country and we don't need to use any missiles. They understood
and
psyop.
they did it.
That's
As
right.
far
They've
as I'm
done it.
concerned, they won.
They
They won.
established their puppet as president, and now they're going
Mhm.
even younger and younger and younger.
Well, it's
Savage
not
back
just a
there wearing
puppet.
a
They started
sock.
in the 80s.
But they finally did establish a puppet in the Oval Office.
Sure. If you believe that Trump is a Russian operative,
Absolutely.
Oh
it's
yeah, he's
possible.
he's in Putin's pocket, I'm pretty sure.
He's got so much Russian money. Why the fuck else would he have gone to Russia so many times with a bunch of his cronies, and a bunch of the cronies get money from them? And
But didn't they do the same thing with Hunter Biden? Didn't he get all that Russian money from the Ukraine?
yeah, I know less about what his sources are, but um,
I'm just saying it's not one. It's not left or right. It's both sides.
but look at the magnitude. What was he supposed to get? 20 million? Trump got at least 600 million. It's not even
But
the
at that level, it's kind of like it's like the stock market just lost $3 trillion last week.
Yeah, but Hunter had no official role. At least Trump ended up having an official, in fact, the most influential role in US government.
I don't know who's more corrupt. Is it Nancy Pelosi or is it someone on the Republican side? I don't know. They're all corrupt to
It's
me, as
Trump.
far as I'm concerned.
It's Trump. It's Barr. It's that
What
crew.
they're all corrupt, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, just look at the
If
convictions.
Yeah, a lot of them went to jail and then got pardoned by Trump.
yeah. Well, okay, so let's like, what is that guy? Smedley Butler. Have you guys heard of this guy?
Heard of him? I
War
don't
is a
know.
Racket. He wrote the book War is a Racket, and he was the last person to try to make a coup d'etat of the United States government in
He was in the,
1930s.
he was in the
He was
Pentagon
a
or something.
general. I'm just saying, if it says in the Constitution of the United States, if there are enemies, foreign or domestic, we need to fight against that.
Yeah.
So we've got domestic enemies and we need to fight against that. And what does that look like in modern day?
Yeah. It was McCarthy too. Domestic
It
enemies.
looks like evangelical Christians. It looks like Project 2025. It looks like Trump and his cronies. It looks like all of his enablers and assistants and aides. Looks like his son, a daughter and son-in-law. It looks like Giuliani. That
To,
whole swamp. That's
yeah. To me, that swamp has co-opted the banking system, and they're the ones that allow the energy flow, aka the money flow. So to reconstruct this, you have to create a whole new banking system, as the one we
it's
have
another
now is
whole
corrupt.
topic going all the way back to 1913 on that little island.
Jekyll Island.
Is that the name of the island? I forget the name of the island.
Yeah.
That's where the Federal Reserve got so-called created.
Well, I was a libertarian. I was with that whole stop the Fed movement years ago, but I gave that up because I truly believe that it's kind of like if you take out the corrupt people, that creates the vacuum, then who's going to move in there? It's like we did with Saddam Hussein. Like you got to be very careful taking out an corrupt system because it does create some sort of order. And what moves into that vacuum is usually way worse than the corruption that we have now.
Yeah, the
So
next bad guy moves in.
yeah, or bad group.
Well, whoever led the ground forces in our Iraqi war, one, maybe two, I forget which one. He was the one that said, "Yeah, we wage war. We can do that efficiently, but we don't wage peace. We don't actually figure out what to do with Iraq once we've, finished, quote unquote, the war." So then that vacuum is left for all these corrupt companies like Halliburton and others to come in and just rape the country and rape the American people of their tax monies. We don't think enough about what happens after, quote unquote, the shooting stops.
Yeah.
Then you get depression.
Yeah, I forget the general's name. He was pretty famous. Desert Storm. He was the guy behind the general leading Desert
Yeah, I
Storm.
know you talk about. I just don't remember his name either. But yeah,
Yeah,
Norman Norman.
I
yeah,
think so. I think
And
so.
Norman. I don't remember his last name.
Yeah, it wasn't Powell. It was whoever was on the ground.
Yeah,
Well, I think that those are the kind of people we need, the Dwight Eisenhowers of the modern day. Like I know Tulsi Gabbard tried to get in there, but she was a medic. She wasn't a general. But those type of people that have seen what war is and know what it is to command, that type of power and want to do good for society. Those are the type of leaders I think we need. So,
Yeah,
but we'll,
Tulsi was promising in the early days, but I got disappointed by her quickly.
yeah, yeah, it was a move in the right direction. Those type of people, just not necessarily her.
I still think
Because
AOC and Bernie and whoever else, I don't know. I don't know enough about Gavin Newsom, but hopefully he can be.
yeah,
Actually, speaking of which, let's get some perspective here. 2 weeks ago on a Sunday, right after our Saturday or Sunday call, Biden stepped down. Harris was nominated, right? So it's only been 2 weeks since that happened. Last week, I think it was last weekend, she nominated or selected Walz as a running mate. And that was after our Saturday and Sunday calls. So this is the
Monday or
first call
Tuesday.
we've actually had since Walz teamed up with Harris. Just amazing how quickly in just 2 weeks things have changed in the political front. And that's what gives me pause because so much can happen in 2 weeks and there's still 85 or whatever days till the election. So a lot can still happen between now
A
and then.
lot can happen. Any number of things can happen.
But Walz seems to have been a good pick, although I didn't know much about him. But he has the military service that, the Republicans can't take away. He's got some articulate capability to speak against Trump and Vance. So I think, she kind of balanced the ticket fairly well with Walz's selection.
oh, she did great. That's a great pick. But it's like to me, it's having the most phoniest phony person next to the most genuine person and trying to balance each other out.
Yeah, Kamala is not without warts.
Well,
Nobody's
she's
without.
fu- yeah, but it's hard to watch her. The shifting of her. What is the word she uses? What I don't want to get into it because it's like she's like a parody of a person. In other words, she was never elected by the people. She's just not a person that was elected by the people. I'm not going to say anything bad about her or good about her. I'm just going to say she's not someone who the average person would want to have as the president. She was not, the populace never voted her in.
Well, arguably, the population voted that ticket, which is Biden Harris. So. That
Well,
was the
no, we voted
election.
against Trump. I voted for Joe Biden the last time because I just couldn't stand
Same
Trump.
thing's
I
gonna
didn't
happen this
care
time.
about.
I'm voting against Trump, regardless who's on the other ticket.
I will probably do the same, but I don't want Harris as the president, but I would rather have her than Trump.
So, what's the summary of why you don't think she's up for the job?
I know a little bit too much from the inside in California. She's just a complete douchebag.
Yeah, I know some of the things she did as Attorney General that aren't particularly reputable.
Yeah, I got my information from the guy who ran against Nancy Pelosi in her district, who's a good friend of mine, and it's pretty disgusting that do you know about Nancy Pelosi's family and how she's related to Gavin Newsom? Look up the genealogy of Nancy Pelosi and her whole little crew, which includes her. You know, it's through marriage, but that's her nephew, Gavin Newsom, who's the governor, and how they
Really?
got to power. And Kamala Harris was an integral part of that power grab in California.
Well, for name dropping, Gavin Newsom's wife's father used to be my boss.
Then you know, I don't have to say anymore.
Jennifer Newsom, I think that's her name.
The aristocracy, the political aristocracy.
Well, he's a name that's going to come up in the next couple of decades as well.
I hope he just goes away from California. He can go be president for all I care. Just get out of California, please. I don't like what he's doing to the state.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as I can see, we're going to have to get back into manufacturing in America, and we're going to have to get really good at it, or we can just give up our whole military of you know being the world's police. We just have to stop unless we get back into manufacturing and get really good at it.
Well, why should we continue to want to be the world's police?
I don't think we should want to, but I think we should do it in a way that we hand over power to someone that can police better than us, because I think there's plenty of people that could do that. And I think a coalition of other nations could do that better than we are.
If you have to
And we can be
police,
a
you've
part of
already
it.
lost the war.
I also think with the technology, aren't we getting to a point where we don't need to ship things around the world? Meaning a lot of resources are in different locations. If we went from competing to sharing resources, we could more efficiently move goods and services around the world without having to be shipping products at, crazy levels, like where it could be more sustainable, like sell to our market, which is we don't need the biggest, bigger, better, more. Is that a big lie that we were given, that we have to have the best things?
Trump thinks that.
Well, Trump's an idiot.
Well, yeah.
He has a gold-plated toilet. What kind of retard is that? He's shit in a gold toilet? Like, well, come on.
Yeah, but it's not just Trump.
That's
It's all the 70 or 80 or arguably 300 million people in the US that worship rich people and think that that's
and
the
all
ideal they want to attain.
and the Chinese and Filipino and Taiwanese people buying handbags that cost $8,000. Like, what's that about?
Because we
It's
have
not.
successfully shipped our culture overseas.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is, instead of trying to prove that we're all better than each other, if that mentality could go away and we're good enough to supply a good lifestyle for the people in the local areas and build off of something that's more attainable and sustainable, that's my rant.
Yeah. And UBI, although badly named, is one small step towards that, except it's, within the US, if at all. And then we have to see if that can actually scale globally. And that's
UVI.
Buckminster
I don't know.
Fuller's vision.
What's UVI?
Universal Basic Income,
Oh, UBI. Okay.
UBI. What did I say?
Yeah.
It
Sorry.
just came out as UVI. I
All right. Sorry.
recognize.
I meant UBI.
Yeah, I'm studying countries like Denmark. There's only 6 million people, but there's a high level of service. And I'm just saying, if we can create a quality of service economy that takes care of needs, that would be a good step. But if we could also manufacture the things that we need without having to import, and vice versa, go to other places and manufacture there for their people. In other words, the monopolies and the robber barons need to go away. The giant corporations that are trying to do everything for everyone need to go away,
Yeah.
which is I don't know if you know about Indira Gandhi and what happened after they gained their independence in the 50s in India, but like the Coca-Cola company came in and said, "Oh, we would love to give Coke to India." And they said, "Okay, great, give us the formula." They said no. And they said, "Well, we'll create our own soda called Thumbs Up," which is absolutely disgusting. If you ever get a chance, try Thumbs Up soda. It's a very different experience.
Mm.
But now they have Coca-Cola in India. But at the time, I'm saying if there was more people that said, "Here, this is what our nation wants in terms of goods and services," and stop trying to, you know what I mean? This weird to me, I blame Hollywood and soft power in the '90s for creating a lot of the problems we have now.
Can't believe that
The,
their formula is still a secret today. It's got to be.
there's cocaine in there. Come on now.
There
There's
was.
something. Well, tell me why the emergency medical team uses it to wash blood off the highway after an accident.
I hadn't
There's
heard
something in Coca-Cola. I hope that's a
that.
lie, but if that's true, that's disgusting.
There's carbonic acid.
Yeah, I'm saying mechanics use it to clean oils and stuff. It's pretty disgusting, and I drink it. I have a burrito, and it helps digest the food because it's quite the acid. It's, I'm just saying these kind of things. If you look at the GMOs over in Europe, where they said, we're not going to have your genetically modified crap in our food system. And everyone I talk to that goes over to Europe says, wow, my stomach felt good eating over there. I think we could get back to that kind of a society where we're creating food locally and we don't need all this canned stuff.
Yeah. Well,
We
I
just
think
need to bring the prices
that,
down.
that creating synthetic protein from plant foods is going to be a big changer from farm animals.
Yeah. Well, farm animals can be a luxury. They just don't have to be a staple.
You know, $50 a pound for Kobe beef or whatever it is.
Or just hot
Wagyu
dogs in
starts at
general.
100.
What is it, $100 a pound? No, okay, whatever.
Wagyu, $100 a pound for years, since about a decade ago.
I would be happy with synthetic protein made from plants if it was affordable. It's not yet affordable. It's still like $8 a pound.
Well, when you go over to India, they're eating a lot of lentils. That's all I know is dal is a big staple in all the food that you eat over there, the rice and dal.
Well, rice is awfully cheap. I mean, you can buy a 20-pound bag of rice for next to nothing here.
That I live off of potatoes, rice, and vegetables, and then I put chicken or fish or beef. But that's not the main part of the meal. That's a side part first. I don't need that much protein, and there is protein inside of the veggies, and
Rice
like
and beans.
avocados have protein.
Rice and beans is a complete protein, isn't it?
Yeah, I eat a lot of beans, a lot of lentils. I'm just saying there's a lot of different diets that not only will sustain you, but are easy for your body to digest.
Yeah.
The one thing I noticed that was missing from my diet, and I just added it back, and it's doing me better, is the garlic, the onions, and ginger. and that's helping to break down the foods better and help my body process it. And the antioxidants in the onions are just incredible for health. And turmeric, yeah, absolutely. Got a bottle of CoQ10 mixed with turmeric for old geriatric people like myself.
That Costco is really selling that big these days.
I'm almost done with the last bottle I got. I got to go get another one. But it does work, and the fish oils too. That's I've noticed is a big one. It really helps out. I get it from I think it's Norway or Finland or something. It's this really expensive, like $30 bottle of fish oil that lasts a while. Just a little dab will do you. Got the omega threes and yeah, and good fruits too. If you can, I can't always get good fruit. That's the one thing I used to get better fruit when I was living in Santa Barbara and Ojai area because it was made from the local farms. And now the fruit I'm getting is coming from the bread basket, which is Bakersfield area, and it's crap. Yeah. Um, by the way, if you guys know of a good place in Mexico to visit, I'm looking to take a trip in December because I would like to spend more time in Central and South America.
Puerto Vallarta.
Yeah. Have you been there?
I was just
Uh,
there.
there's a Club Med in Puerto Vallarta, and I think I went there once, like 40 years ago, maybe. I don't know what it's like today, but look into Puerto Vallarta. It's a kind of a touristy coastal, Pacific coastal part of Mexico.
But not yet nearly as built up as some of the more popular places like Cancun or
There's Costa Rica also, which is popular.
That's another place. That might be interesting.
I don't look into Costa Rica, look in Puerto Vallarta. I can't recommend them because I've never been. Well, yeah, I think I've been to Puerto Vallarta,
what
but
are you looking to
I mean,
find?
just to relax, just to have a break from society. I just want to get out of America and eat good.
you're in the
I
Sierra
like the
Nevadas.
food.
Aren't you already out of America in the Sierra Nevadas?
Not really.
You're
It's
not in the
still,
urban
I just
area.
went to the hardware store and they ripped me off and I'm pretty pissed about it. I bought $150 worth of wood and they gave me the shittiest wood on the lot. And they loaded up in my car and I said, wait a second, this is crap. And they went, well, it's already in your car.
Can't you cut your own wood in the forest around you?
You, I don't have one of those big enough saws,
Oh,
a sawmill. I've tried with chainsaws to cut my own wood. It's not that easy. You need a, you need a planer, a huge planer. It's just one of those things where, you know, how I don't know, there's this general malaise I feel in America of, well, you paid for it. This is what we did. We ripped you off and now we got you. So there's nothing you can do about it.
don't go back there. Don't buy there anymore.
It doesn't matter because you go to the next place and they're doing this. It's a generalized thing amongst all. It's not their fault. They have to just to survive. They can't not rip you off. It's I can't find a quality restaurant in California anymore. I think it's after COVID or even before COVID, it was getting bad, but now it's really bad. And it's because they go to the supermarket or wherever they're buying their stuff from, and they've got to cheap out a little bit to make a profit. It's not their fault.
Yeah. I've heard stories here too of overpriced restaurants with lousy food, but I hardly ever eat out unless I'm invited out.
Yeah. Well, I just went to get a papusa and it was $4.50. And I'm used to Hollywood. It's $2. And on the cheap day, it's $1.50 for a delicious corn fried beans. And, you know, it's an El Salvadorian dish, but it's something that I like because we used to always get it in the neighborhood in Hollywood. And the store up here, they have to charge $4.50 for one. It seems ridiculous. It's corn and beans. I could make it at home, I'm sure. but I don't want to get the oil all over the kitchen because they fry it in oil. But I just feel like America's gotten to the point where it's a general practice to laugh after you've ripped someone off. Say, ha, they're stupid. They bought that. Dummies. Like that. I don't like that energy. Like I want to go somewhere that doesn't have that energy just for a few weeks.
Well, I can't promise you that Central Mexico or Central America won't also be like that. I really can't promise you that.
Oh,
So,
there'll be plenty of places like that, but that it's a different culture though.
yeah.
Like I've experienced that in other when I traveled to, I did a little traveling in Central America, in Ecuador and Peru, South America, and those places are just known by the locals. Those are the tourist spots. You don't go to those places. And the local places, they just can't do that because they won't stay in business. They have to have good quality, and good service. We're also talking about like a fraction of the money that we spend in America. We're talking about like 75 cents for, something that costs $10 here. So if they rip me off by a quarter, I'm okay with that. If it's a dollar or a dollar 25 for something that I would pay $15 here, like a burrito, if I'm paying $1.50 for a burrito, and then here I go to like Chipotle and they're charging me $12 for the same burrito, it's like, come on.
You can go to New Mexico and get fry bread at the
Get
Pueblo.
what?
You can get fry bread at the Pueblos. They make this Native American fry bread or whatever it is that you go to these little out of the way
Oh,
Pueblo places in New Mexico.
yeah. Well, there's also just a general malaise in society right now. Like everyone, like I'll smile and say hi to people, and they're like, "What do you want from me?" And I'm like, "Nothing. How you doing?" Good. Are you gonna get me fired? No, you're fine. It's okay. Are you supposed to be back here? Probably not. I'll leave. Sorry to say hi to you. I'm just being friendly. And I don't like that feeling of like you're accosting people.
Mistrust, distrust. Yeah.
Do you feel that at all, Barry?
Well, I don't go see. I mean, I go to the grocery store with a Stop and Shop, and that's about it. So, I
Yeah.
don't I don't frequent a lot of different places. I buy my own groceries. I prepare almost all my own meals at home. Hardly ever go out. Buy
Yeah.
gas.
I've been trying to teach I've been teaching Aya to just say hi to strangers. Like when like she's in the stroller, we're walking, someone walks by, I say, "Hey, how's it going?" And then they go, "Oh, hey, someone's talking to me. Hi." And then it's nice. And then she thinks that's normal. So now when we go places, she'll just say hi to someone and they'll walk by and not even acknowledge her presence. And she'll just look like, what's wrong with that person? What's their problem?
Problem is they're Americans.
I think they got a lot in their mind. They're probably doped up on Prozac or whatever drug they're on, and they're just trying to get through their day. They don't, it's not like there's nothing personal. It's just they're not trying to be part of a society because we're all individuals. So I don't know. I just want to go somewhere where it feels more inclusive.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I'll find it. I know it exists. I don't want to go to, I would go to Europe, but I don't want to fly that far. In Southern California, Mexico is just, a 2 hour flight. So from LAX, we'll see. It's, yeah, the Tesla company was going to build a factory in Mexico and they're waiting to find out who's going to be president because if Trump does become president, he'll probably put a tax on cars coming from Mexico. Whereas I think the Harris administration would not.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to make plans when you don't know what the political tenor of the times will be like.
Yeah. I think things are going to accelerate really fast as soon as January 20. When is the president sworn in? January 20th,
On the
something.
20th. It's
Yeah.
always the 20th.
Yeah. That will be a fast accelerating market.
And we'll
As
see
soon
if the
as,
so-called bloodbath that Trump is threatening or promising comes about when he loses.
oh, don't listen to that guy. That guy doesn't know shit.
But he'll try to foment, I mean, I'm sure he'll try to foment one. Whether he succeeds or not is another story.
Well, you saw the market correction with the Taiwanese market and the Japanese market just recently, and everyone's correcting and getting ready for this change.
Okay.
So what's going on economically around the world is it will grow. It's just a question of who's going to have the cash to grow it, and people are trying to get out now to save their cash to use it when it's time to invest, and that's what's crashing global economies. And there was a huge economic summit in St. Peters, I think it was St. Petersburg, Russia, with a lot of world leaders getting ready for this new economy. So it's going to be a growth period. It's just a question: is it going to be 10 years from now, or is it going to be January 20th, 2025? So we'll
Yeah,
find out.
Sabe.
But nothing's going to stop the growth for sure. Even if there's wars, it'll still grow in the war. Like the economy of the United States, I guarantee in 10 years will be over $75 trillion.
What is it today?
26
Trillion.
roughly,
It's going to triple.
at least. Yeah.
But I think we have over 30 trillion in debt today.
Well, that's why I'm saying it has to triple to pay off that debt.
Okay, so we're going to devalue the dollar then.
Hugely, hugely. It's going to be a huge devaluation.
Wonderful solution.
That they've always done that. You'll
Yeah.
watch interest rates drop. It's not a great solution for any kind of value system, but it's definitely going to allow things to keep moving, and I'm sure they'll put it up to 50 trillion in debt. But what will money mean at that point? I mean, if we have, you know, that much money flowing around the world, what does that mean? Like what are we really doing?
Hoarding credits.
Yeah. You will own nothing and you will like it. That just keeps going into my mind.
Well, I have a lot of stuff around here that why I still have it around here, I don't know. I don't use it anymore. It's just growing old,
Yeah.
decrepit.
Well, now I'm going to go check in. A friend of Ronnie's actually wants to use my empty duck coop to put her chicken in. So now I got to go figure out whether I want to do that.
Tell
Are
her
all
about
the
the
ducks gone?
coyotes.
All the ducks, unfortunately, got caught by coyotes and raccoons.
I'm
So
sorry.
the coop is empty right now.
Well, chickens are great. If you can get chickens in there, their eggs are incredible, and feed them some of your scraps. And I did that in a house in Ojai, and it was the best egg breakfasts I've ever had.
Tell her about the
Actually, duck
coyotes.
eggs make very good omelets as well, and
I
baked goods.
bet. Yeah,
Yeah,
but you'll get a lot more out of the chickens, I bet. So their yield is high if you can protect them in a coop.
yeah, that's the
You have
thing.
a rooster in order for the chickens to lay.
What?
You have to have a rooster in order for the chickens to lay.
I
It's the
actually don't
opposite.
know.
If you don't have a rooster, then they'll lay the eggs that don't turn into chickens that you can eat.
Right.
But if you do have a rooster, then you get actual chickens.
So you don't
But
want a
you
rooster.
you do want a rooster, you just want to mingle, you want to separate them and let them mingle at certain times and create more chickens. So you'll have your hens that will be high yielding and you'll know who they are. And they'll every night when you go to put them in the coop, they'll be sitting out there. They're not going in because they're hoarding those eggs.
Well,
So
can the roosters fend off the coyotes?
some can, but I would not count on that. I would get a nice cage. And they make, by the way, Sam, I've been noticing on Amazon they have these really good automated chicken coop doors that you can get and set on a timer when you're not home, so you can let them in and out of the coop.
I gotta go look into that now.
All right, good luck.
You guys can continue. I'm going to check with my daughter.
Okie doke. And before we go, Barry, I was going to ask you, I haven't had a chance to research it enough, but it keeps coming up in my feed. This new Japanese fusion reactor. I think it's called like Japanese 60 advanced fusion reactor. And I'm wondering if you heard anything of any breakthroughs in fusion technology.
I watched a presentation on fusion, but I don't recall any Japanese models being discussed in that presentation. I mean, fusion has been just around the corner for 20, 30 years.
I think they cracked some big, you know, uh, I don't know if it was how they're producing hydrogen from it or if it's actually going to yield any kind of, power system, but there's something that they're working on that could be a breakthrough. I don't know what kind of a breakthrough. I got to look into it more.
No, I couldn't tell you anything about it. Even the thing that I watched, which was basically some European projects to develop. And these were only demonstration fusion reactors. They were only just to prove the technology or scale up the technology. Um, I don't have a lot of high expectations out of them.
Yeah.
I think solar is basically going to end up winning the race to next generation green power.
I've been betting on that since the early 2000s, the solar, just because I saw it really ramping up in the 2000s on all the houses in America.
French has this project called ITER, ITER, and they just pushed the timeline out another half a decade or so. They're not going to be online until 1939 now. It's just, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's not just French. There's a lot of people involved in that.
Yeah, but it's on French soil. That's the deal.
Right.
But
Yeah. Yeah. I
Steve,
know that the British just had more days with, not using fossil fuels. They just keep breaking those records.
yeah, Sabina Hassenfelder keeps putting down fusion as hype without any real meaningful progress. Just a lot of hype.
Yeah, I don't see fusion as a main energy source as much as a creator of hydrogen, which can use to fuel tankers.
But the thing is, in fusion, you combine hydrogen to make helium. How does it produce hydrogen? It produces helium out of hydrogen.
I don't know how that works. That's why I'm asking you. I have no
That's
idea.
what fusion is fusing deuterium, which is heavy hydrogen, into helium. The only thing you can get hydrogen out of is water. You can dissociate water into hydrogen, but that uses energy, it doesn't make it.
Maybe there's a byproduct afterwards that helps to use the
Well, you could
I don't know.
certainly, I don't know. I mean, you get helium is the byproduct. It's the nuclear byproduct, and heat's the nuclear is the other byproduct, which is used to make steam, to drive generators, turbines. But I don't know about producing hydrogen. That's you get hydrogen by dissociating water with electricity or some other technology.
Yeah. I'm just trying to follow the Tesla company invested a lot of money years ago in a company called Maxwell Technologies out of San Diego, and it's dry cell technology of producing batteries without having to wet it down and let it dry up.
Yes, there's
So if
something
they,
about solid state batteries. I I know there's some work on solid state batteries, but I really beyond that, I don't know You know,
I've watched all the videos on solid state batteries, and it is incredible, but at large scale, it cannot get up to speed fast enough.
that's the problem is a lot of these are only laboratory curiosities and either are not
Yeah.
economical or not scalable. Uh, Although I do think that there will be some breakthroughs in battery technologies in the next maybe 10 years that will eventually make energy storage more practical than it is now.
Yeah, well, the breakthrough, the original Tesla car was using the same batteries inside a laptop, which are the 2680 cells.
Yeah, the lithium cells. I think there's a new technology to replace lithium with sodium. There's some kind of a, instead of a lithium ion, there's some kind of a sodium ion battery. But beyond that, I don't really don't know any details about it.
Yeah. Thanks for that link you sent last week because I'm following a company called Energy X, which is getting a lot of money from Exxon right now. They're building a huge factory in Texas, and they have a different lithium refining process, a proprietary process that is not the best. It's not the, it's a good process, and the quicker you can get the most amount of lithium out of the earth at the cheapest rate is the key.
Yeah.
So for now, that's
I don't
it's
think
going to be
lithium is
lithium.
terribly rare, but mining lithium might be only a few places where there's good mining of it.
It's not the mining is easy. It's the extraction aspect of how the because you got to pump a lot of water in there, and then you got to separate the lithium out.
Yeah, that's what I don't know is how you get the lithium out of the ore.
Yeah, they've got these little sponge techniques of like putting a little thing down, and it's collecting like a sponge, and they got to scrape it off. It's but Nevada is filled with lithium. The whole entire state of Nevada.
Is it? I guess I'm not too surprised. I think the the Great Salt Flats probably have a lot of those kind of minerals there.
Yeah, yeah, they're going to be making well, the battery aspect of the business for Tesla is far exceeding the car output. So they're making these power walls and
Yeah,
large batteries.
yeah. Like I say, I'm expecting progress in battery technology. Just whether or not there's going to be any big breakthroughs or just gradual upgrades, that I couldn't tell you.
There are big breakthroughs, but so what I'm learning about batteries is, do you want them to charge fast? Do you want them to dissipate fast? Do you want them to charge slowly, dissipate slowly? And the energy density problem seems to be solved enough to make them fly in planes. So that's already figured out. They got the density down.
Clearly, the
So
ones that
now,
are used for domestic energy storage can be slow charge, slow discharge. The ones in automobiles is a different story. There you want fast charge and fast discharge, but they're much
yeah,
smaller because there's not a total amount of energy that's
right now it's about 35 minutes to have an 80% full. Like if you're at 10%, actually it's a 70% in 35 minutes
yeah. I mean, if you can do that
with where they're
overnight
at.
at home, that's fine. If you're on the highway, that may be an issue. Stopping for
But
35 minutes, every few hundred miles.
yeah, so my battery is supposedly, at ideal conditions, 300 miles per charge. So all I need when I'm out and about, if I'm an hour and a half away from where I am, I just need 40% to get me home. But I like to have 50% so that I can step on the gas a little bit, step on the accelerator.
But you can plug in when you're home, I presume.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's all solar panels.
And you're going to sleep, 5, 6 hours a night anyway, so you're not going to be driving when you're sleeping.
Right. But if I lived in the city, 300 miles, I could charge it once every 5, 6 days
Probably, yeah.
because I'm only going like, I would say when I'm in the city, we try to get down with 60% of the battery. And after 3 days, it's usually down to about 15%. And then we charge it up to go home.
Yeah.
And that works out pretty well. It's but this new self-driving thing is using a lot of the system resources.
Yeah,
So
but not
it's
that much power. It might
well,
use a lot of technology, but the power consumption can't be that much.
it's not that much, but what I'm finding is when the computer drives itself, it's better on the acceleration and deceleration because it's using the computer system to calculate the grade.
Right.
And it's doing a better job at managing the battery when it's driving than when I'm driving.
I
So
can
I like
believe
to let
that.
it drive.
It's not a lead
Yeah.
foot uh, accelerator.
You can click the button that says lead foot accelerator. There's a chill mode and a aggressive mode. So
Yeah, my gas car has an econo mode, and it changes from green to blue if you're not using the econo level of
yeah.
acceleration.
Yeah, the mind change for me is going from driving a car with gasoline to driving a Macintosh laptop is what it feels like as I'm in a computer. So it's a different state of mind in terms of being on electricity
I've
power.
never
It's just
even
a
ridden. I've never even ridden an electric car, let alone driven one.
it's like have you ever driven in a golf cart?
I've gone for a ride in a golf cart, but I don't remember if it's. I think, yeah, it might have been. We have people who have golf carts here. Probably some of them are electric. Probably most of them are electric. So, yeah, but you only go, you know, barely quarter mile on.
But you feel that like when you put the golf cart pedal, you kind of feel it jerk a little bit. It has that jerkiness.
Oh, yeah, you're on grass, so it's uneven terrain anyway. So, yeah,
Yeah. I'm saying that it to me, the first time I got in it, and still to this day when I drive it, it just feels like a big golf cart, like a
okay.
huge 2,000 pound golf cart that's getting pushed around.
Yeah.
I like the feeling personally. I can't go back. Like when I was driving in the gas car the other day, I was like, oh, this is a nice feeling. I remember this feeling, but it's not, it's like I don't want to step on the gas and redline it, you know? I don't like, I can, yeah.
I drive very conservatively. I mean, I hardly ever see the lights change from green to blue when when my econo, goes below that, whatever that threshold is.
Yeah.
Usually, if I'm
Well,
accelerating to get up to speed on Route 128, it'll go blue for the acceleration phase because you want to get up to speed pretty fast.
yeah, it's like having superpowers because anytime you want, you can just imagine you could click your car from Honda Civic mode to Ferrari mode.
Right.
That's what I've got in the electric was I can just if all these trucks are trying to get on the freeway and I have no pocket, no way to get in, I can just fly through them all super fast.
I see.
So it's like I used to ride motorcycles. It's like riding a motorcycle, but you're in a car. The direct drive.
I mean, someday, I mean, if I live long enough, I may end up with an electric vehicle or spend more time riding in one. But right now, I mean, I may know people who have electric vehicles who are around here, but as far as I know, I've never ridden in one. It's possible I have and just didn't know it.
Yeah, a Prius is
Hardly ever ride in anybody else's vehicle.
okay. Well, I say check it out because it's inevitable. It's they're gonna move all the engines to I just saw a guy put a drill on a bicycle at the show and he was going 25 miles per hour on an electric drill.
Okay, well, there you go.
And I just got a new drill that the electric motor, I've never felt such torque and power in such a small device. And they're making these
The DC
beautiful new
motors have
drills.
very high torque at low speed.
Yeah.
That's the
And
nature of
and, and brushless too. So I'm just saying, I just watched a video where this little tiny drill is taking off the bolts on a car, and it's smart enough. The motor is smart enough to use the torque just to kind of twist
Oh
it,
yeah,
and then it loosens it
pulses
up. And it was,
pulses it to get it loosened. Yeah,
yeah, that pulsing of the motor was just incredible. I mean, in such a small
yeah.
device.
Blenders have a pulse mode too. Kitchen
Oh
blenders.
yeah. Yeah, speaking of that, I've got to redo my blender is breaking, I think. It's getting really loud. I think there's pieces that it's about to melt down. I got to get a new one. But yeah, I really think that there'll be attachments to the humanoid robots that are basically drill attachments, and it'll be able to do some really cool construction stuff or maintenance.
I could see theoretically getting a robot to do housework for me, but I mean, the way things are in my house right now, it all has to be done manually. There's no way a robot could handle until I could get rid of all this clutter.
Did you see the new figure robot that came out this week? They've got 16 actuators in the hands now, and
Oh,
a
really?
regular human hand has 23. So it still can't do this yet,
Neither can I.
but
I
but
can't do that either.
yeah, the big change in the humanoid robot development is they're putting the actuators into the wrist like a human instead of in the hands. So the hands were really big with giant motors that are moving the fingers, and now they're moving those actuators into the wrist. So the dexterity will get to the point where it can actually do the movement that it needs to around the house.
We wanted just selling devices that can open a jar for you because it's getting harder and harder for older people to open jars because the jar lids are on so tight and you can't open them if you're slightly arthritic or don't have,
Did they make those little take out the pressure things on jars? Like it lifts up the side, takes the air pressure out.
I've never seen one.
Check into that. It should be a little lever that you attach and it just bends it slightly and the air pops and then
Oh,
you open the jar.
yeah, I've never seen anything like that. I have different kinds of things to help open jars, but I hardly ever, I mean, every once in a while I'll get one that's on really tight and I'll need something, but I still have enough power in my hands to open caps and lids.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
put it on,
I,
I'll put it under hot water for 20 seconds.
all I know is the humanoid robots will be coming out in 2026 for the very affluent, and you'll start to see them on commercials, and
Yeah.
everyone will be testing them out.
All right. Well, more power to them.
Yep. All right, Barry, I'm gonna check in. Cusella's driving, and I'm gonna see where she's at.
All righty. And I'll tell Sam that we went at 36 minutes after the second hour.
All right.
All right, ciao.
Cheers.